Good evening, everyone. Nice clear of your throat there, Mark. Just 1 second before we start. Welcome to FPL BlackBox, episode 131. My name is Az, and I'm joined by a very smart-looking Mr. Mark Sullens. How are you, Mark?
Very good. You like the jumper? That's what you want to call it.
I do like the jumper. I asked you before we came on, didn't I, where you got it from? And you said my favourite high street store.
Oh, what? Oh, no, we can't. We can't advertise. People who don't. Well, we can advertise, but not people who actually pay us money to advertise.
No. They get freely. I like it. I like that. Other department stores are available.
Yes, they are. How are you? I'm good. I'm all right. A bit of a meh game week, wasn't it? But it's not even over yet, and it's meh already with the team sheet for Liverpool.
Well, we're recording this now. If anyone's listening after, and Liverpool. Luton was just about to kick off. 7:30, is it?
7:30. You've got half an hour to go.
Yeah, so it's 7:05 now. The Liverpool-Luton game will be kicking off soon. We've both got Kelleher and Doty, I believe. So
yeah, because you're copying me every stride, aren't you?
It's ridiculous. And the poster boy of this episode is a player who we're both looking at this week as well. So it's only going to get worse.
Yeah, you, me, and the world basically on Twitter looking at Hwang, aren't we? So,
absolutely. Yeah. Actually, speaking of Hwangs. That leads us very nicely into it's back, Mark, our sponsor.
We've made it. Yeah.
They're back. Yeah. Massive thank you to Manscaped who reached out, got back in touch. They are sponsoring this episode. For anyone who's listened to BlackBox over the last couple of years knows that it was always Mark and I's dream to be sponsored by Manscaped. We achieved that last year and they're back.
Yeah, you haven't made it as a podcaster until you've advertised Manscaped, in my opinion. And I do a forest podcast, as people may have realised. And I sent my kit arrived yesterday.
You did?
Yep. Kit. Yep. More on that in a minute. And I sent the picture to the podcast host of the Forest podcast I do and go, you haven't made it till you get one of these. Because it's the rites of passage, isn't it? When you get
the creme de la creme of male grooming products. So obviously,
the ad has started now, is it? Sorry, okay.
That's it. Yeah, and when you look at our demographics of like 95% men in 18 to 35 range, and Nigel the Crab, then you know that it's probably quite a good channel to sponsor.
Yeah, so my kit arrived yesterday, so I haven't used it yet, so I don't know what I'm in store for, but you will obviously take us through that. But Pip said, do put that away, do hide it because the cleaner's coming tomorrow and I don't want her to see it. What does she mean by that? What is she ashamed of? I said to her, are you ashamed that you have a man who takes care of his undercarriage?
Exactly, said, I know. Ridiculous. I mean, it's look at your nice shaved beard and your hair today. It's all
yeah, don't look too closely.
And let's not go any further down. Anyway, so check out uk.manscaped.com. Use our code BlackBox. Surprisingly, you get 20% off everything. They've already got some deals on there as well, and you get a further 20% off as well. You get the ball shaver for my dad if he's watching. You can get this, which is the this is
nasal hair.
Yeah, nasal hair and ear. I think this is called the lawnmower, by the way. You get this crop cleanser, which my missus keeps using by accident. And it's called Gentle Groin Wash. So can't overdo it.
I won't go into how she uses that.
The crop preserver, you get that as well. And I've got. So that's all part of the performance package. I've got the beard trimmer, which genuinely is the best beard trimmer I've ever used.
That's a bold statement.
It is a bit pricey than other beard trimmers, but I get through them like they're anything beard trimmers. They seem to last like 6 months. This one, much better. So
it's looking good tonight. I mean, from what I can see of your Manscaped use, it looks good. I'm just going on the chin, but I'll let others review the rest.
Very good, very good. Anyway, if you check out Manscaped, you'll be supporting the channel. They've got some great products on there as well. Someone's saying, did you say ball shaver for your dad? Yeah, that's a weird line out of context.
He did say that.
My dad didn't know what these products were, and I had to explain to him what ball shaver was. That was the context of that. It's not for my dad. I think he's well, it's definitely not going to that. But
there is no age limit on...
there is, and it's my dad's age.
Fair enough.
Amazing. But do check out Manscaped. Use the code BlackBox, 20% off all their products. Right, should we talk FPL?
Yes, indeed. Yeah.
Oh, we're getting some great comments about Manscaped. My favourite. I love doing those things. My game week. Yeah, I'm on 86. No hit. I've got, like I said, Kelleher and Doty to play. I resisted the urge to do Watkins to Tony, which I was very, very close to doing, and then Watkins with 2 goals. That would have been another selling of Watkins before a brace, just like we both did ahead of that Bournemouth game. Other than that, I mean, Garnacho, did you watch the Man U game? God, Garnacho had so many chances in that match. I was the one-on-one he had as well. I was cursing. But yeah, I mean, it's an all right game. I've seen people with a lot worse. I've seen people that have sold Saka, for example. I've seen people taking -8s to bring in Jota and Darwin and all these people. So 10 points for the triple captain, 86 points, green arrow. It's all right. But we hope for more, though, don't we?
I think the game week was defined more by what you didn't do than what you did do, if you know what I mean. As in, like, the moves we made towards the double game week, the efforts we made to lean into it, as in tripling up on City, triple captain Haaland, tripling up on Liverpool, that actually had less impact than actually some of the decisions you might have made to move towards it. And one of those decisions might have been selling Watkins, one of them might have been selling Solanke, one of them might have been selling Saka. And those were the moves that really hurt. And so we got away with not doing too much damage. I mean, none of us had Solanke. I mean, I guess you had Darwin instead of Solanke and I had Darwin instead of Solanke. And looking ahead to the double game week, that looked like the right thing to do. But as it turned out, with the injury to Darwin, it wasn't. So I think in a way, we got away with having an average to good double game week. And obviously everyone suffered the Haaland triple captain, unless you held it and you're banking on Solanke in game week 28, of course.
I think if you attacked this double game week, you got punished, because the likes of Darwin were brought in, for Watkins or Solanke. You could have gone for Tony as well and got burned by that. With Jota getting injured so early, with all the I mean, look at the Man City mids: Foden with 5, De Bruyne with 2. I mean, the only player to come out of it with any real credibility was your man Walker. What a story he's been for you this season.
Wow, what a roller coaster I've had with Carl. And he could have got a lot better, because he put the cross in for Haaland's offside goal.
I thought he was getting a 20-pointer. I really did.
Yeah, and then he got booked and lost bonus as well. Yeah, 95. So Kelleher still to play tonight. Trippier 1 point. Gabriel 6. Doherty still to play tonight. 1 point at the moment. Walker 12. Saka 15. Foden 5. Jota 4. Watkins, Darwin, Haaland 13, 5 and 30 respectively. Bench was okay. I didn't make any bad decisions in terms of the benching. I thought maybe I could have played Bailey, but that turned out to be the right call. Yeah, I mean, my moves towards the game week didn't pay off, but I'm at one with those. I think keeping Darwin for the double was the right thing to do, rather than moving to Solanke. The injuries to him and Jota are completely unforeseen, and you've got to think that had they played tonight against Luton, we'd have got some return to them. So it's just unfortunate. I moved with a crowd of FPL managers who did the same. And I got away with not selling Watkins and Saka, so I'm thankful for that, because those are decisions that could have been made to lean in further to what was a very average game week return in the end, or maybe for some even a poor game week return. So Walker was a useful acquisition for me, because we all thought Ake would be the one to play both games, and it wasn't the case. But maybe Walker won't turn up for Bournemouth now, and that will hurt me, because I've only got 10 going into game week 26, of course.
Well, I thought Ake was nailed on to play those 2 games. I really did. And I thought Walker, he's the one that's missed a game recently, and I thought he could be more at more at risk. But I couldn't believe it when I saw Ake wasn't starting. I couldn't believe when I saw De Bruyne wasn't starting either. And then for him to get no minutes, and then for Pep to say he's got a hamstring complaint, it just added to the pile, didn't it, of kind of poor... I don't know what they were, not really even performances, just poor luck. I think, hamstring niggles and Darwin and Jota getting injured, and Foden. I mean, Foden had so many chances yesterday as well. That one he had when he kind of took it round the keeper and just hit it wide of the post. He was absolutely incredible.
Oh, he's been great week in, week out, hasn't he? It's very hard to see a Man City team without him in it now. So he is certainly now the Foden we always wanted, which was a nailed-on asset in Pep's team. I don't really see him as a rotation risk anymore. I think, you look at Grealish, Silva, Doku, they're the players that are going to rotate around him. Famous last words, I guess. Just on this, I think when we look back on lessons learned and things we did right and things we did wrong, one thing I decided to do this season, which I think has helped me, and people, FBL has a saying, how jammy Mark is week in, week out. I think I'll take that off the screen very quickly. One reason for the perceived jam, I'm going to say it's perceived rather than actual
Where's my
jam,
toast?
is because at the start of the season I said to myself, you know what, as soon as a player gets injured, I'm going to be very pessimistic about it. I'm going to think that they're not going to, if they're a doubt, that they're out, and I'm going to think that if they are injured, they're out for longer than managers say. And I actually think that wasn't based on anything. It wasn't based on, oh, well, I'm pretty certain this year we're going to see more injuries or more players that are out for longer than the managers say. I just felt that's the right thing to do, because I've seen a pattern in previous seasons where I'd held a player because a manager said, oh, yeah, they're back on grass, or they could be coming into... Yeah, and it just goes on for week after week, and you think, oh, God, I've held them for 3 or 4 weeks. I haven't made moves I would have made for players that would have got me points because I'm kind of... being kept on this leash by the manager's words. And I thought, I'm not doing that anymore. As soon as a player's injured, I get them out, and I'm not going to take any notice of what the managers say. And if you look over the season, how that's helped me recently, like for example, Trent Alexander-Arnold, look how that injury has reoccurred, where I sold him straight away as soon as he was injured. And I thought to myself, no, I'm not going to, that he could be out for longer. And lo and behold, he did come back, but then he got the injury again. Yeah. And it's just things like that. I think that is one lesson I'm going to take forward every season now, is just as soon as the player is flagged and there's some doubt, just get rid and bank on the fact that it's worse than the managers are saying. Because I do think there's a trend where players are getting more muscle injuries, but also managers are kind of not outright lying, but they're kind of giving indications on players' returns when actually, you know, the reality is a lot worse than perhaps they're putting across. You know, tactically, that's the right thing to do as a Premier League manager, of course.
Do you think you could extend that as well to players who have fallen out of favour? Because, I mean, look at Chilwell earlier in the season. We thought he would get his place back straight away. He then didn't, and then got injured anyway. You know, I'm looking at him and thinking, well, you know, and then the same happened with another player whose name I just had but have now forgotten. He was in the team, and then, with Stupinan, obviously. It's now happened with Stupinan, isn't it? And it's like, I've got him this week, but it's like, I'm thinking surely he's going to get his place back in the team. He's one of our best players, but he's fallen out with the manager. At what point do you give up? Do you give up on him?
Yeah, he has had poor games though, Stupinan. He has had at least a couple of stinkers where he's come back in. And I presume that would be.
So it's Trippier, but he's invincible.
Yeah, well, I guess his status at that club is such that he's allowed that, right? He's got a certain amount of credit, hasn't he, built up. Yeah, I just think that stood me in good stead, and it's definitely one I'm going to take forward. So I look at this now. I mean, I've held Porro, as you see in that
Botman,
team. But
as I feel Freddie mentions
as well. Botman was the one that I started this with. But I think it's actually been a really useful ploy to have, and it's actually meant that, like Kelleher's a good example. The injury to Alisson, I was thinking, one of the things behind going to Kelleher, not only the double, but also I thought, I bet that injury's worse than it is. I bet he's going to be out for 2 or 3 months. So I'll just go with that. I'll go with a pessimistic view of the injury, because if that comes in, Kelleher's suddenly a player that you want to hold for a bit longer. So I just gambled on Alisson being out longer. Now, there is talk that he could be out until the end of next month. Now, it might not be true, but I think that's a good policy to have. I think it works well, because I think as the seasons roll on, I'm trusting what I'm hearing from pressers less and less and less, basically.
It does feel like there's a bit more kind of mind games in that department. Like, we're seeing we're seeing more and more team leagues in terms of like more and more information coming to us about who's starting, and it's like almost the reverse of that is less and less information from press conferences that's actually tangible and that we can use. So it's like they're balancing.
It
is, isn't it? It is a bit.
If you're going to link my team, I'm not going to give you any information that's any of your use.
Yeah, I know. It's weird. So what you're saying is transfer out injured players and get a lot of luck, and that's how you come 13k in the world, right?
Think pessimistically about every injury, and then people will perceive that you've been lucky, is what I'm saying.
Nicely turned. You could make a politician these days. Right, let's take a look at some. I mean, everything that I'm looking at, everything I'm reading. I did a thing for the official FPL. It's all about, you know, this blank game week, what players we should be targeting, and all that. And the key thing, I think, when you listen to these podcasts, which might give you the edge over my mates at uni who don't care about any of this stuff, is, and are probably still beating me, is Gameweek 29. We've got to have in mind Gameweek 29, because if you look at the Premier League fixture page, there is no evidence there's going to be this ridiculous chaotic week in 29 that's on the horizon. We've shown this before. I mean, this is Ben Krellin's kind of latest predictors for this game. He's predicting 5 fixtures essentially out of 10. And actually that is quite optimistic based on other things that I'm seeing. Brighton City has a 93% chance of being cancelled. Everton Liverpool nearly 90%. Wolves Bournemouth 85%. Arsenal Chelsea 80%. Crystal Palace Newcastle nearly 80%. Man U Sheffield United, unless your boys can do a number on Forest. I mean, that would be a prime target for like Hoy. I mean, if that game goes ahead, United Sheffield, we're going to see Garnacho, Hoyland, Maguire, all these players coming in droves. And then it's Luton Forest. So I think one of those two games is likely to go ahead, right? Because
they can't both be on.
No, they can't both be on, but they could both be off.
Yeah. And I think the most likely outcome is Luton and Forest dropping in. Yeah. But I think Forest will give United a tough game at home. So that, I think we're either going to get Man United, Sheffield United, or Luton Forest on. I think so. I think there will be a 4.
Unless Luton do a number on City in the Cup, which is less likely.
So the likelihood is one of those two will drop in. I don't think we're going to have more than 4.
No,
I really don't.
So the confirmed fixtures are West Ham, Villa, Fulham, Spurs, Burnley, Brentford. And if we come over to this great graphic that we found from FPL_Spaceman on Twitter, basically he's looked at all the different permutations and outcomes of matches that there could be, and then applied. I mean, who makes this stuff? It just absolutely blows my mind. But there is kind of an 80% chance it's going to be between 4 and 5 fixtures this week. That's kind of the main takeaway from this. So looking at this, the most likely outcome of a 25% outcome is Burnley, Brentford, Fulham, Spurs, West Ham, Villa, Luton Forest, which is exactly what you just said. So do you think we should be solely focused on making sure we can get players out for 29, or do we just go, sod it, free hit?
Well, it depends whether you want to make that decision now or you want to make that decision when the cup matches have played out.
Which is next week, right?
Because we could have some shocks. And it's whether it should feed your transfer for game week 26 is the big decision. Because if you're going to make your transfers for game week 26 with 29 in mind, you're not going to get the likes of Neto and Wang. You're going to rather gravitate towards Bowen and players like or Tony, who are players who are going to play in 29. I mean, the other factor to put into this is the double in 28, of course, in that comes prior to 29, and you might want to use at least one transfer going into 28. So you've got to think you're not going to easily be able to roll 2 transfers into 29. So you've got to factor that in too. Depend on how hard you want to chase that Luton Bournemouth double game week. We're all going to want Solanke for that game.
Triple captainers who kept that chip for him must be hoping for a big haul in that game. 2 great home fixtures.
Yeah. So you've got to plan in 28 as well on what your moves are there. And looking at this, I think the most likely outcome is going to be 4 games. And it's whether or not, if it's the second option there, if it's United versus Sheffield United, I think I've got to free hit, because I would only have, I think, maximum 4 or 5 players, even with 3 transfers. So I'd have to take multiple hits to get on United. I don't have any United players, and you'd want Hoyland and Fernandes, wouldn't you, for at home to Sheffield United? So I think if it is that second option and United drop in because Forest beat them in the cup, then I would free hit. If it's not, and Luton play, then I would have 1 extra player, maybe 2 extra players, because I could load up on another Luton player for the double in 28. I could maybe get Kaminsky, and that would give me an extra player for 29 as well, giving me an extra player for 28 in the double, and then a player for 29. If it's the top one, then, if it's Luton Forest, that's still an option where I would take hits going into 29 to maybe get up to 7, 8 players and think that's good enough. But when you look at a free hit team for 29, is that the case? Like, do you look at
that now?
Free hit? Well, you could bring that up, yeah. Do you look at a potential free hit team and think, I covet that team? So I did this before tonight based on the first outcome, which is that Luton and Forest do play in 29. So there were 8 teams. And the free hit team I put together is as follows. Flecken in goal. So that would be for Brentford away at Burnley, a good fixture. And then Doughty, Porro, Reguilon, presuming Porro's fit. So Doughty at home to Forest, Reguilon away at Fulham.
Double
Reguilon away at Burnley and Tottenham away at Fulham. And then a midfielder Gibbs White away at Luton, Bowen at home to Villa, Charlison away at Fulham, Son away at Fulham, and then up front, Tony captain away at Burnley, Watkins away at West Ham, Awani away at Luton, and on the bench of Bailey at West Ham, Moreno at West Ham, and Tavares at Luton, with Areola, the reserve keeper. That's comfortably within budget, well within my budget, and arguably you've got a good side there, right? Depending on whether you think Forest are going to beat Luton with Gibbs White and Awani. You could swap them out, obviously, for Bailey and Moreno there as well. So there's options there. That's not a bad side with a free hit, and probably significantly better than I'm going to be able to get to. But it is banking on the likes of Gibbs White, Bowen, Awani, Reguilon and Porro returning points when these are hardly leading. I mean, Bowen has been a good elite asset this season, but he isn't at the moment. So it's whether or not you feel that those extra players that you would get through the free hit are going to reward you with more than 2 points. Because I think most managers are going to have Tony, Watkins, one of the Spurs midfielders, Doughty perhaps. They're likely to have those players. It's the ones around that. It's your Reguilons, it's your Gibbs Whites, it's your Bowens, it's your Awanis, it's your Baileys, Morenos. They're the players that have got to come in for you if the free hit's going to pay off. Unless you're happy with just the extra 2 points, which you're not going to be, right?
You seem to have come round to this idea more than when we spoke last, because I think I've always kind of when I saw the fixtures in 34, and I listened to the Planet FPL pod that James and Suj did, which again we always say is absolutely amazing. If you want to go into the proper granular detail, check that pod out, because planning chips and stuff, their kind of predictions of what's going to happen is absolutely incredible. So it seems likely that free hits are going to be used in either, presuming you have like all your chips left or don't have the bench boost, like I did. The free hit is likely to be used in 29 to cover the blanks if you have a crappy team. The advantages of it are you can build a fairly decent team like you had. I mean, before now in 29, you might be able to get in like a Son. Maybe you've got Porro already. Maybe Doherty's in place. Like you're probably going to have like 5 or 6 of those players, but it lets you get in some of the other ones that you don't have to buy now, because you can focus on players like Hwang and Neto, who we're going to be talking about in this fixture, and kind of just not worry about it and just getting people with good fixtures leading up to when you wildcard afterwards. 34, the wildcard there, I mean, it just worries me because...
Free hit there.
The free hit in 34 worries me because there's going to be double game weeks in that week, but the double game weeks look rubbish. Like absolutely rubbish. You're going to be wildcarding, you're going to be free hitting out single game week players like Saka away at Wolves, make like Liverpool with Fulham. We're probably going to have Salah back by then, maybe Darwin as well. You're going to be Man City have Spurs. That could be a good fixture for the likes of Son, for Haaland, and you're going to be getting in players from like bottom half of the table teams. And there feels a lot more risk in that than just using it in 29 when you can just ignore, these crappy teams and then just bring it to 29 and know that you're going to get a green arrow, aren't you? You're always guaranteed a green arrow in 29 if you free hit.
Yeah, and the thing is, once we get the FA Cup results, we'll have a much better picture of what the double game week in 34 and 37 will look like, because obviously the FA Cup draw will give us a greater idea who's likely to blank. And then you can work out the teams most likely to double in 34, and you get a picture for what 34 looks like. So the information this time next week is going to be so valuable to whether we free hit or not. The question right now, sitting here now, is do you want to commit to that free hit now before you know that information, and therefore turn your back on moving towards 29 players now? Because I could go Jota to Bowen and get myself a player that I know is going to play game week 29. Yeah. But Bowen against Hwang is probably going to lose out. Hwang's probably going to score more points than Bowen over the next 3 game weeks. So it's whether or not I want to be led by my planning for 29 or be led by what I see in front of me, which is better fixtures for Hwang. Personally, I'm probably going to do the latter. I'm going to ignore 29 for now and presume that when the FA Cup results come in and the draw comes in, it makes me more confident about free hitting in 29. That's probably what I'm going to do right now.
I mean, it's a bit like Tony as well, isn't it? Because for me, looking at the fixtures that we've got on the screen, I like the look of Watkins next 3 with Forest, Luton, Spurs. I like the look of Haaland, because it's Haaland, obviously, with Bournemouth, Man United and Liverpool. I mean, they're not the best fixtures, but it's still Haaland. And then you've got Solanke, obviously, with the double in 28, and then Burnley in 27 as well. So I know it's City this week, but those to me seem like the players I want to be targeting leading up to 29. I mean, Tony's a great pick. He's on penalties, free kicks, everything. But you take away this West Ham game, I mean, Chelsea and then Arsenal in 27 and 28.
And you've got to keep Watkins because he plays in 29.
Yeah.
And you need Solanke for 28. So what are you doing? Selling Haaland to get? You're not doing that, are you? You might sell Haaland going into 29 because then you wildcard 30 and it doesn't matter. You're only not, you're not missing Haaland because he's not going to play in 29, and then you wildcard him back in. So that's an option. But I don't think going to Tony now and foregoing Solanke for the doubles are an option, and you're not going to sell Watkins. So what are you doing? Selling Haaland? It's not going to happen, is it? So I think that in itself means that we're more likely to ignore 29 for this week until we have the information after game week 26 going into 27, and then decide what we do. What you got here on the screen here is the 3 most popular and diverse chip strategies now. Obviously, presuming the triple captain's been played in 25. If it hasn't, then you presume it's trying to drop into
Good on you.
28. Yeah, well done.
If you resisted that urge, then you've got better,
you've got better odds now. Yeah. Strategy 1 is what we've talked about previously, being the favoured strategy should all the places fall nicely for game week 29, which is you wild card after game week 29 having dead ended into it. So you move your team now towards game week 29, and that might involve getting the likes of Richarlison, Son, Bowen, perhaps another Luton player, another Villa midfielder like Bailey, a Villa defender, getting as many players as you can in for game week 29. Then you wild card away from that. And you'd probably sell Haaland to Tony as well, going into 29, of course. You'd wildcard away from that in 30. You'd free hit in 34, so you'd try and maximise the game week, double game week in 34 with the free hit. But after you're wildcarding in 30 to build for the double in 37, and you're going to bench boost in 37. So you totally ignore game week 34 when you wildcard. You just build for what's left, including the double game week 37, which will have some clue on how that's going to fall. And then you bench boost in 37, having built for that. So it means that you can ignore 34. You don't need to build for it. You don't need to get those players from average teams, but you can still maximise a double. But you're quite right. What the risk you're taking there is you're probably going to be taking some good players out at good teams to bring in players that are average from average teams with the free hit. And therefore the free hit could really hurt you if you try and maximise it.
I mean, I've used the bench boost already, so used in the loosest sense of the word. So I mean, my other option is to free hit in 37 at the time when everyone's bench boosting. The issue with that is that if I do wild cards in game week 30, which is probably quite likely, we're all going to be building the team for 37 anyway. So how much value am I going to get from free hitting in 37? It's probably going to be a lot of the same players that I've already got in my team, but I might have a couple of players other people can't have because they're having to keep money on their bench, whereas I can go completely nothing on the bench and put it all into the 11 and try and match people. So that might be my way of countering it if because my trip strategy might be a little bit different to most people's.
Yeah, no, I see that. The other strategy, and this is Luke said that he's looking at this at the moment, is potentially wildcarding in 27. So you can wildcard in 27 to build some form of a team for 29, and then still free hit in 34, and then hit the bench boost in 37. I think Luke's favoured route was the free hit in 29 low, wildcard after the game week 34 with 37 in mind, and then bench boost in 37. And that way, that's closer to a more traditional wildcard into bench boost approach. And so you basically ignore 29 and you start building towards what the 34 double is likely to be using free transfers, and then you're wildcarding out of 34 straight into a strong.
I think strategy 3 is nice because I think it's a kind of a balanced approach.
Yeah.
You can build your team now with players who've got good games running up to 2029, free hit and just get whoever you want. And then you've got indecent players to carry you up until the wild card, and you just get a couple of decent ones in for 34 or something like that. Then you wild card in 35 and attack 37.
It depends how 34 looks,
It does,
doesn't it?
yeah.
Because what you're foregoing there is you're foregoing going heavy on game week 34's double, because you're unlikely to want to bring a lot of the players that will double in 34 in with free transfers, because they're going to be players playing in more average teams. So you're not going to want to weaken your team long term for that double in game week 34. So you're going to be tempered in your approach to the double in 34, but that's okay, as we've said, because it could be that single game weekers are very strong in that game week anyway. If we look at the fixtures there, City are at Spurs, Arsenal are at Wolves, Liverpool are at Fulham, and these are the teams that aren't likely to double in game week 34, I believe. I think Spurs are. I think Spurs are likely to double in 34 is the latest, but not Man City, not Arsenal, not Liverpool. So are you going to want to, for example, take your Liverpool players out of your team in 34 for double game weekers when they go to Fulham? Probably not, right? So you're happy holding your Liverpool players for that. And it's likely we're going to have Salah and maybe others, maybe Trent by then as well. So, at the moment I am torn. And so, it all depends on what happens in the FA Cup and how we think the doubles in 34 and 37 drop as a result of that.
It's amazing how much we can talk about something where it's still completely in the air. Just to reiterate what James said on Planet FPL, his projected doublers in 34 are Chelsea, Brighton, Wolves, Bournemouth, Everton, Palace, Sheffield United. You can pretty much eliminate Everton, Palace and Sheffield United. Maybe Eze or Elise. I don't think you're going to go near any of the others. Bournemouth, Solanke's going to be there anyway. Wolves, you might have Wang. Brighton, who the hell do you get from Brighton? It doesn't seem like we've got many options at all. And then Chelsea's only really Palmer. So, I don't know. The free hit just feels a bit like you're going to be free hitting for a lot of hit and hopes, aren't you? Rather than established players.
And the crucial factor is it's not who you're bringing in, it's who you're taking out.
Yeah.
Whereas this week, in 29, the free hit is where you're taking out blanks a lot of the time, aren't you? So it doesn't matter too much that you're bringing in players that play for the likes of Luton, Forest, West Ham, Villa. Not that Villa are a bad side. It doesn't matter you're investing in those players because you're not losing players in single game week players that are going to hurt you. Whereas in 34, you are taking that risk if you really attack the double. So I am very much more balanced now in my approach to this. And I think my tactic will be to not make transfers this week that have 29 in mind. Although the Tony option isn't ruled out, because one thing you could do, you could get Tony in this week, and they'll then sell Haaland for Solanke ahead of 28, because Haaland goes to I think it's Liverpool on 20 Haaland goes to Liverpool, doesn't he? In 28. So you could afford to lose him perhaps for that game because he doesn't play in 29 anyway, and then you wildcard him back in 30. So you could do that.
Yeah.
So it's not out of the question to get Tony this week because he's at West Ham, who are a shambles.
Yeah.
So,
well, I just think to the kind of the roundup of this, I think is at the moment, be open to the idea of free hitting in 29, and that allows you to maybe go for players like Wolves players this week, maybe even Højlund this week, because worst case scenario, he doesn't have the game in 29, but you still get Fulham and Everton, and then you might free hit. But if he does have the game in 29 as well, that gives you another option. So don't be put off players just because of the 29. Basically, we started this by saying you've got to be aware of 29, and we've ended it by saying don't worry too much about 29. That's if you've got the free hit left. If you haven't got the free hit chip left, which a lot of people don't, right? It's probably been used by 20%, 25% of the game. Then you obviously need to have much more of a plan in place, and that's where your Brentfords, your Aston Villas, and these players are going to be much more helpful. Cool.
There you go. More on that next week. Much more, I imagine.
We just clicked our mouths at the same time. That was very disturbing. Welcome to I'm So Confused Now, who's just joined the Godfather tier. Send me an email, as@FPLBlackBox.com, and we get you into the Discord. We'll get you on the Predictions League and the Members Leagues and all that stuff. Welcome to the family. Speaking of family, here's Nigel the Crab. Of course, he's giving us more money. Oh, Nigel, we love you. But you don't need to give us so much money. We've got the Manscaped sponsor now. We're fine. If Akanji keeps his form up, I might. Oh, yeah, he's still got his triple captain chip. In terms of points per most minutes, I put it together. I'll share on Discord. Nice membership plug. There. Thoughts on Trossard? I love Trossard so much. Nice to see him playing a bit more regularly.
He's doing very well, isn't he? And Arsenal mids for Jota is an option this week as well. Because I think Arsenal at home to Newcastle is a good fixture for Arsenal. Then they follow that up with Sheffield United away, which is an outstanding fixture, of course. And then it's Brentford at home, which you'd back them to win that by some margin as well. So an Arsenal mid for Jota is not a bad option. And Trossard at the moment looks a nailed starter, right? His output's been fantastic. He's perhaps going to get his minutes curtailed somewhat. So he's a bit like Martinelli, but I would argue at the moment more productive than Martinelli. Yeah,
he's in a great run of form. He's only played 90 minutes twice all season. That's obviously that's what you kind of buy into. Even in the last two starts he's been subbed off around the 70-minute mark, but they have been like 4-0 up or 5-0 up or whatever it is in both of those games. But when you think about how well they're playing and the recent 3 results, beating Liverpool a few weeks ago and then the massive results against West Ham and Burnley, why would he change that up now? It's working so effectively and so potently. And people are considering, doubling up on mids again, aren't they? With Odegaard, maybe. I don't hate the Trossard pick. I just wonder if there's better mids. More secure. Yeah. Maybe not better is the wrong word. More secure.
Yeah, he's definitely not secure, is he? He's, right now I would say he's a certain starter for the next game, but every game you'll be wondering, is his place at risk? He's one bad game or one ineffective game away from having his starting role in question, I guess. And do you want that? Probably not when you're planning for 29.
Yeah, that's what I think. Don't give yourself headaches at a time when it's already so up in the air. Let's take a look at team debt defense. I focused the talking points really around the 6 that we know are playing in 29, because I think particularly with defense, I think if you're making defensive moves, you want to have that in mind. I think you can attack the games leading up to 29 a little bit more with some of the midfielders and strikers, but defensively, I think Villa are a good side to kind of target. Given that Cash is back now and got some attacking threat, Moreno, we can talk about those in a bit. Keeping Porro potentially isn't a bad option because of 29. I'm obviously not going to bring him in this week, but do you see his tweet or his Instagram post earlier today where someone asked him if he was if they should sell him in their FPL team, and he was like, "No, you keep me, I'm fine," something like that. So it's a bit of optimism there. Brentford, Flecken has had a great double game week, really, isn't he? 30 saves or something in the last 6. We're going to see in a bit, 39 saves, something like that. Any defenders you like?
I'd argue that Villa aren't a strong defensive side at the moment because they've got injuries to Konsa, to Carlos, and to Kamara as well. And I think really looking at the teams that are definitely going to play in 29, I don't think there's really strong defensive assets available. You mentioned Cash and Moreno for their attacking potential. Same for Doughty for Luton, of course, if Luton drop in. I don't think there's clean sheets on offer for many of these teams, really.
Luton have scored.
Oh, have they? Okay. I do. That's the last thing I want as a first man. Unless, of course, Doughty's got the points. Yeah, and a Kelleher as well, yeah. This is over the season. If you look at the data over the last 6, I think that would probably back that up. I think, the likes of Villa, Brentford, Spurs, Fulham, Burnley, West Ham, I don't think even recent form shows any of those sides to be doing well.
No, we'll come on to that now, but it's all quite consistent. There's a slight increase for Spurs, and then a bit of a drop for Villa, but then everything else is Fulham, Burnley, West Ham, Brentford are about the same, if not a little bit lower. Yeah,
I think that's consistent with what we've seen. Spurs' defence has improved with Van de Ven back, of course. I think holding Porro or getting Porro ahead of 29 could be the way to go. I'd only hold it goes against my policy of getting rid of injured players, but I think because he's a defender and you can have him on your bench, in 4th or 5th defender if you're playing 3, then it's okay. And with 29 in mind, I think Spurs defence, unless you're going to go 3 of their attacking players, is it's worth having at least one, I would say.
Yep.
Villa, yeah, it's difficult. I guess you would go Powell at the moment, or Moreno if you could stretch to it. Again, I think that's more about the attacking potential than the clean sheet potential, though. I mean, they got West Ham in that game week, right? So you'd expect there's a good chance of maybe them getting a clean sheet there, but it's not. Don't know. They're not reliable, are they?
The thing is, when you take out Arsenal, obviously with Saliba and Gabriel looking so good, it's so hard to know where to go with defenders because there doesn't seem to be many clean sheets at all. There's no real premium assets now. Trent's injured and Trippier's got tough fixtures and they're bottom of the team defence over the last 6. So I mean, do you invest in maybe an 8 Nori or a Ballon Dawson, or do you just go for a regular? Because like if you haven't got any defenders this week, like say you've got Porro and Destiny and Estupiñán's a bit of a doubt, and you've got like a Van Dijk and Bradley and you need a defender. There's no one that screams this is the player to get for the next 4 weeks. No,
I think you're more likely to double on Arsenal, get a Saliba and a Gabriel, aren't you?
I think so,
because the fixtures they've got, and there's no doubt that their defensive data is strong. I mean, the trouble with the City defence is they aren't reliable despite the data, and also there's that rotation now, which is, as we saw with Ake, really a problem. So yeah, I don't think there is anyone that screams out here. And obviously, I'm going to say look at the Forest defensive data, but there isn't a defender there.
I mean, that is incredible, isn't it? Second over the last 6.
Yeah, and since Nuno came in, they're second as well, second best defence for XG conceded non-penalty. I think that the Forest have conceded goals from errors and the goalkeeper and goalkeeping errors. But actually, from open play, we've been the second best defence in terms of XG. So despite having quite tough fixtures, but there's no one there. I mean, Murillo's the most likely starter, maybe Tavares at the moment, and he's a cheap option. It's definitely worth having a Forest defender going into 29 if you're free hitting, because I think at Luton it could be a very interesting game. So they're probably bench fodder for 29 if you're free hitting Forest, but I didn't think you'd bring them in. Whether you bring a Forest player in now as a differential, Elanga or Gibbs White. I mean, Elanga's goal involvement's been very strong. I think when we look at midfielders, he's up there. So possibly. But yeah, you're right. Defender-wise, I think if you're making a transfer defensively, you're getting another Arsenal defender if you haven't got 2, aren't you?
Yeah, because even Forest, assuming they do have a game in 29, they've got good defensive numbers. You think, oh, this could be a team that, this is a bit shrewd. But then they've got Aston Villa away, Liverpool and Brighton.
Yeah, it's not clean sheets.
Even with good defensive data, you're still going to concede in at least 2 or 3 of those, I would have thought. Yeah. So,
no.
Yeah, it is a tough one to know what to do. Like you said, I think double Arsenal defence is the way to go. Or maybe you take that boost Moreno up a little bit because you're taking a bit of a punt.
Yeah, I mean maybe an 8 Nori at Wolves with a bit of attacking potential, maybe. Yeah. Because of the fixtures they've got over the next 3. But even teams like Palace now don't offer us. They used to be that dull kind of. But they'll get between 10 and 15 clean sheets somewhere in there. But at the moment they're obviously in transition with the new manager coming in. So we don't know to trust them again yet, and we certainly haven't been able to trust them recently. So there isn't really that middle ground team that gives you steady clean sheets.
There's not, is there? No, I can't remember. I don't think there's been a season where we've had that. I mean, we all thought Newcastle were just like a gift, didn't we? Botman at 4-5. Dubravka with Pope's injury. You could look at Burn. You could look at Cher maybe at 5, but yeah, it just isn't really happening. So it's hard to know where to go. The attack. I mean, you've got Spurs and Villa, they're 5th and 6th over the season for XG non-penalty per 90. Brentford in 9th, and then West Ham, Fulham in 14th and 15th, and Burnley kind of right down in 19th. If we look at that over the last 6, you can see Villa kind of improving up to 4th, but it has been good fixtures for them, but you could argue it's good fixtures again, still coming as well. Interestingly, Brentford over the last 6 have dropped off quite a lot. I mean, they have just played City, obviously, twice. But with Tony back, you'd think this would improve. But I think I said last week, Tony's not actually getting that many chances. He's just getting good ones and taking them when he does get them. Yeah.
So there could be. I mean, he is so. We've said, haven't we? He's kind of fixture proof. Like if he gets 1 or 2 chances, he'll score, and he's guaranteed to get something in a game, and he can score some goals out of nothing as well. He's not necessarily a box predator who can't score spectacular goals as well. So he is he's not one to overlook despite the fixtures. But I don't think you can get the Brentford aren't a free flowing attacking side. by any means, as this data shows. And West Ham, Bowen, we talked about, well, maybe you could move to Bowen this week with your Joshua transfer because of the 29 fixture, but look at the attacking data here. And that's backed up by what we've seen. They've been absolutely dire in attack. I mean, like, I watched them in the defeat to Arsenal, and then I watched them in the flesh in the defeat to Forest, and just no idea. He's very one-dimensional in attack, and Bowen, shadow of the player he was earlier in the season.
I think it's really poor for West Ham, considering they played Forest away. We've just established probably isn't that easy a game. But that Arsenal, that's tough. But then Manchester United, Bournemouth, Sheffield United, and Brighton. I mean, I know Bournemouth have improved this season, and obviously we're no pushovers, but these are games in which, like with West Ham's kind of attack, with good, they've got good players in their side. They've been scoring goals all season, and Bowen's been on fire. Like, they're just not creating anything, and it's just like a switch has gone. They're just really struggling. So I'm just not interested in Bowen at all. Maybe on the free hit, but I don't want to be buying him to try and get me through the next few weeks. No,
that's right. And the fixtures are good. I mean, like, looking ahead to this period, I was thinking, I'll get Bowen in with 29 in mind, because they play Brentford this week, which on paper should be a game they can score goals in. They go to West Ham, they go to Everton the week after, and then they play Burnley at home in 28, leading into the 29 fixture at home to Villa. So there are games there where you should think, well, they can score 1 to 2 goals in all those matches, but based on what we've seen and based on that data, you don't back them to score in any game at the moment.
No.
Which, and they're missing Paqueta. I mean, maybe Paqueta's, there's a lot of talk about him on the verge of returning, and maybe that will unlock them again. And maybe we need to wait on news on that. Maybe we might get an update from Moyes on Paqueta's fitness going into the weekend. And if he is possibly coming back, that might change my view on West Ham and Bowen somewhat.
Yeah. Talking about kind of disappointing defences, goalkeepers. I was looking at the kind of the points per 90 for goalkeepers this season, and the top kind of regular playing keeper is Alisson. Okay, that's not that surprising. He plays Liverpool. Then it was Pope when he played, and then it's Raya at 4. And I thought, Raya, like, I would argue that, I think a lot of people would, that like Luke has had Raya all season. He's like, always finds a way to concede a goal. He's been like an absolute nightmare for me all season. I'm looking down the list. I'm looking like Areola, Pickford. Okay, he's had spells, but not been amazing. And it's like, they're just the goalkeepers this season. There's normally one, isn't there, by this point, who's just emerged and is just making saves, he's cleaning up on the bonus, he's doing quite well. I just don't know who it is. There isn't one at the moment. They've
all had their peaks and troughs, and the only way that you've got done well out of the goalkeepers is if you've moved perfectly along those peaks and troughs. So we said before about like you didn't get Pickford at the start of the season, you got him for his run. So maybe you started with Areola, you moved to Pickford, then perhaps you brought in Raya. I mean, Alisson's the only one who's had any form of consistency that you could have got as a one-stop shop from the start, as this shows. But he has not been enough.
No.
And then he's had the injuries as well, right? So he's had a hamstring once, and he's got a second one now. No, it's been a dead position, hasn't it? And it's well done if you've managed to move your transfers to Leno was another one. Yeah. Well done if you've moved your transfers around and had some
realistically
decent returns. Very hard to do, because you don't make goalkeeper transfers, do you?
No, that's it. And they've had, like you said, they've had spells. Pickford's had his spell, Leno's had his spell. Dubravka did all right for a little bit, but yeah, I don't know. There's normally someone, and we all thought it was going to be Dubravka, and then that's just coincided with the other injuries they've had, and their form kind of really dipping. Over the last 6, I mean, there's not exactly a huge amount to write here either. Edison's kind of top of this pile, as you kind of look at Steele too, but I mean, Flecken with 37 saves over the last 6.
He's the one, isn't he? Yeah. He's the one. If you're getting a keeper in with 29 in mind, he's the one you're going to.
I don't think he had it in him, those 2 City performances. He's been brilliant in those 2 games. I'd kind of written him off. Yeah,
he got a lot of media. Well, he started to get media attention about his XG prevented and how poor that was, because he was right down the bottom, I believe. Because I remember when I looked over the season,
over the season it's -4, but over the last 6 it's +2.
Yeah. So he was, I think, ranked bottom with, I think, the 2 Forest keepers and Johnston as like worse for XG prevented. And since he was mentioned, he's really, stood up and gone, no, I'm going to. And I think people were speculating that City targeted him and were firing in shots at the G-Tech because they felt that, he isn't a top quality shot stopper, but he proved them wrong.
They were definitely doing that because I've never seen City shoot like that. Like they were different against Brentford at home. They were much more trying to work the ball into the box, and then occasionally you get like an Alvarez kind of snapshot or something like that. But they were trying to play him more. I think they played all their attacking players, and I don't think. Well, I guess they did underestimate him, but I think rightly because he's not looked solid.
I mean they must have looked at the data and thought, well, if we fire in 10 shots, there'll be a goal. Because the data suggests that he does let in shots that aren't high XG value. So we shouldn't wait for perfect opportunities. We should shoot when we get the opportunity, basically. But it turned out not to be the case, and they struggled in both games really to break them down and get the breakthrough.
And then the other one here is just Dubravka to mention, because only Trafford's conceded more goals than Dubravka over the last 6 as well, which at a time when the fixtures have been relatively all right, and I think we were hoping he'd do a bit more. I haven't got him, but those who do own him have it. He did get the pen save though, which was very annoying, but a lot of people benched him for that because they played Areola instead, who also did quite well that week, to be fair. But yeah, the goalkeepers is a real tough one. You're a fan of Sells though, right? The Forest keeper.
Yeah, he's done all right. I mean, I'm a fan of him because he's a big upgrade on Turner and Flacolimos, basically. So no, exactly. They were, I mean, Turner, just some of the fundamentals are so poor. I don't know. So at times he looks like an outfield player in goal. He is a good shot stopper, but he's also been caught out on his near post twice. Both goals that you'd expect to be saved. And his kicking's atrocious, absolutely atrocious. I'm not joking. You and I could probably, be as good as Turner in terms of the ball at his feet. And you just can't have that now. You can't, because the way Nuno wants to play is it involves recycling the ball, and the goalkeeper's involved in doing that. So he had to be out the side. And Vlachodimos just had this ability to not be a factor in any of the goals. No matter when a shot went in, you couldn't really blame him for not saving it, but him saving it was never a possibility. And I don't know whether that he was unlucky with the quality of the shots that were coming in on him, but he just looked bad as well because he was not helping us keep goals out. So, but Sells looks much more assured and very good with the ball at his feet. His distribution's really good. So it's changed Forest in that we're more confident defensively, but also we know we can pass the ball back to Sells, and his contribution to the move would actually be a meaningful one. Whereas with Turner, it was like you pass it back and it's, at best, you're conceding a throw, basically. Yeah.
I'm still struggling with Brighton's whole policy of switching out Steele and Verbruggen every week. I don't know. I find it... I just think that position just needs a bit of stability. And I thought Steele actually did really well against Spurs. He kept Richarlison out. He looked quite strong. And then he was benched. And okay, Verbruggen actually came in and did well. And but it's like, I don't know. I think Forest have now got a keeper which is just going to play every time and not going to keep messing around with it. I think that helps the team a lot more. And it's
when that Brighton situation hasn't helped the goalkeeper in FPL situation either, because arguably, even though Brighton don't keep clean sheets, the Brighton keeper could have been someone.
It should have been. He should have been an option. Yeah, absolutely. Defenders. Let's take a look at some of these. So we start with the kind of the season data. We've talked about Cash and Moreno over the season. Cash is 5th on the XG on penny per 90, with Moreno in 10th as well. Estupinan in 8th. I want to switch straight over to the last 6 though, because you've got to go down to 39th to find Moreno on this list. 0.12 over the last 6. And look at Estupinan.
In 6 starts.
Yeah,
well.
I know. Started all the games, but not really offering a lot in terms of attacking potential. And then you've got Estupinan right down in 50th. So even if we get a start from Estupinan, he ain't attacking.
Is that because he's playing the left centre back role in matches as well?
Yeah, well, he's kind of flipping around. He was left back against Spurs, but didn't get forward very much, which was very different to the game he played a few weeks ago or over Christmas when he was marauding up the pitch and scored that wonder goal against them. So, yeah, I mean, Estupinan's chances created per 90 is still in the top 10 of defenders over the last 6, and his BPS is good, but yeah, I don't know, the attacking potential doesn't really seem to be there, but it doesn't really seem to be there for a lot of defenders at the moment.
Yeah, I think Van Heck has been the defender I've been most impressed with at Brighton. And so if you're looking for a budget, we were talking about Branthwaite earlier in the season, but I think Van Heck is suddenly, he's elevated himself. He's a regular starter. He's really solid. His BPS is strong. It's just the lack of clean sheets, which is the problem. But they've kept 3 in the last 6, so it is there for Brighton. So there's literally, I mean, Branthwaite's got the set piece goal for it, I guess, and that's always going to be a factor with a Dyche side, isn't it? That's the thing. So Moreno, I wouldn't be put off by with this data. I think if you're going to go over the defender and you've got the funds, you go Moreno. You might as well, because I don't think Powell offers the attacking potential that Moreno offers. I prefer Moreno to Cash as well, I think. So yeah, I would certainly ignore this data for that. Interesting that Walker's shot up to number 10 here.
Up to 10.
Having been outside the 30 all season, he's suddenly becoming more of a factor in the final third for City. And then we've seen it, haven't we? He's got forward quite a lot when he's played.
Yeah, absolutely. And, like we said earlier, he was unlucky not to get the assist. I say unlucky. He was offside, but only just for that. And yeah, and then there's been, I mean, he had the shot, didn't he? That was the assist in the first game as well. And yeah, I don't know. He does look like a really good pick, and I think that kind of balance with him and Foden is where that's kind of working so well, because I think Foden wasn't really trusted to kind of drop into the midfield pockets, because if he lost the ball there, Luke has pointed out many times, he loses the ball in the midfield and Pep goes absolutely mad. And even though Foden isn't playing as like an out-and-out 10, he still likes to drift into that midfield. But now there's more trust in him to do that, retain the ball, drive with the ball from midfield areas, and that just lets Walker just bomb right up on the right. Because when that doesn't happen, Foden's the one hugging the touchline and dropping back to almost the right-back spot at times. So that just seems to be such an effective... In a City team that kind of... I don't really know what's going on half the time with Núñez comes in or Bernardo plays there, De Bruyne is in and out, and the style seems to change. In defence, it's all kind of unsettled. Akanji 1 minute, Ake the next. There's no left back in the team because Cancelo's gone. I don't know. It's like Pep's playing an entirely new game of tactics. But what I do understand is Walker and Foden on the right works effectively, and surely that's going to be something they keep doing.
Yeah. You haven't highlighted Reguilon here, but it's interesting that Reguilon at 0.19 is identical to over the season XGI non-penalty to Henry, who the player he replaces at left wing back or left back. And Reguilon's certainly someone going into 29 you want to be looking at, either with the free hit or transfer. So arguably, if you are making a defensive transfer this week with 29 in mind, Reguilon would be the place to go, because at least he does offer you something going forward. I don't see clean sheets necessarily, although Brentford at West Ham, West Ham, as we said, pretty awful. So, and then they go to who did Brentford play in 27? Brentford played Chelsea at home, which is a derby game. You probably wouldn't see a clean sheet there. And then it's Arsenal away, not a clean sheet there, but you get the 29. So, for what you might get in 26 away at West Ham and the guaranteed fixture in 29, Reguilon, as this display shows, has that little bit of intent in the final third that can reward you. A couple of assists in the last 6, I think. Have you got the last 6 data there? Where does he fare since he's joined Brentford? How far up this is he? Yeah, he's 20th, similar position, but he's got the 2 assists from the 4 starts. So, he's a sound bet, isn't he?
I mean, the points per 90 of the last 6 for defenders in general is low. I mean, you can exclude players like Kiwi or who we're not going to play. Reguilon's there in the top 10 with just over 5. We see Gabriel with 6 with the goals that he's had, and Walker's done well, but a lot of defenders, aren't returning that regularly. So why not go for Reguilon?
Yeah.
I just heard a scream. Not sure what that was. Sure, it's fine.
Another Luton goal, maybe?
Actually, no. My next door neighbours are Liverpool fans, so it could well have been something bad that's happened.
Well, it would be in chat if there was anything happening.
Yeah, sure. Nothing seems to be happening. Okay, let us know if anything does happen. Midfielders then over the season. Oh, Salah back and returning. What did you make of that?
Well, I mean, he was back before Klopp wanted him to be, and now he's picked up more complications of the injury, supposedly. So
hamstring, isn't it? Hamstring the same.
Yeah. So, I mean, that's bad news for Liverpool. I mean, look, if you only got to look at the side they've got out tonight, and it's a very weakened attacking lineup. Yes, they've got Gakpo and Diaz there, but there's no depth now to the bench. So losing Salah when he looked so sharp in that game against Brentford. So that's what struck me. You remember last year when he came back from AFCON, there was that, oh, he's not the same player, and there was a lot of narrative about, his output dropped off after the AFCON, but he came straight on that pitch at Brentford and just looked incredibly
He looked
sharp.
fully fit and ready, and I was like, there is no doubt he's starting the next game as well.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I wonder what happened to him in between that. Just maybe felt a little tweak, I guess.
Yeah, and it was that in the Egypt game, wasn't it? Because he didn't pull a hamstring. He just went down, didn't he? And then was like, so it's something deeper. It's something perhaps that's not a traditional hamstring type injury that's troubling him. So, yeah, I mean, my policy would be not to hold on to that and think pessimistically about the injury. So I hope that isn't the case. But, I mean, he's a player if we're wildcarding after 29 that we would want for the run-in, of course. And as this table shows over the season, 8.4 points per game. He's absolutely delivered, hasn't he?
Did you see Dick Triggerlips bought in Salah this week? Yeah, he was like, I'm not going to look for any leaks. I'm not going to look any time. Salah's back. I'm going to get him back in my team. Then he went out all day, and I saw Salah when he scored an assist. I was like, Triggerlips is going to be loving this. And he came back and he was like, oh yeah, 1-0 Triggerlips. Leakers none. I was like, oh, fair enough. If you went for him and you weren't worried about the leaks, or you got him even though you knew he was benched in that first game, fair enough. You got unlucky, I think. Tonight.
I think you were very unlucky, because when he got those points against Brentford, I was like, I guess the wild move would have been to move for Salah and even triple captain him for that game week, thinking that you were going to get 1.5 games and he would do that kind of damage. And it turns out that even in the one game, even in the half game that you got from Salah, he outscored Haaland. So it still would have worked out. But having the injury going into this game, which, if Salah had started this, you've got to think he would have been a major factor.
70 minutes of Salah versus 180 of Haaland, and he gets outscored. It was just, some things you just can't prepare for. Other players here. I mean, what do we do with De Bruyne? I mean, you haven't got him. I have. He's a lot of money. 10.8. Yeah, Luke did a post back in January, didn't he, where he said he's just not an option for him. No. He's a great player, but he's getting on a bit. Minutes are going to be managed. I took the punt on him because I was really struggling in the ranks and hoped for a monster haul from him. I haven't had that. I've had a couple of assists from him. It's been okay, but not been amazing. And does he even start against Bournemouth if he's got a hamstring thing? Yeah, I mean, this is it. Game to game, you've got the anxiety about him starting, because there's no question the deeper they go in Champions League, he's going to be preserved for those games. I don't think they need him on the pitch to win Premier League games. He's there on the bench if the low block isn't broken down. He can come on and make that difference in the last 20. But do you want an FPL asset who's that? The thing is, they looked like they needed him for large spells of yesterday's match.
I don't know why he was on the bench.
No. They were. I was like, surely he's going to come on at 55, 60 minutes, because they're struggling so much to break down this Brentford side. They defended so well, and they were so unlucky with that Ayer slip too. Like they could have held on, because it didn't look like City had a way through. Haaland was missing chances again and getting more and more frustrated, and then he's just eventually just one little error like that cost them. But I'm done with De Bruyne. I think I'm going to hold him for this Bournemouth game. I think De Bruyne to a Son or a Maddison.
Oh yeah,
it just makes a lot of sense, doesn't it? Because depending on even if you're free hitting or not, I think just getting in a Spurs midfielder.
Well, and if you're not free hitting, you probably even consider an Arsenal midfielder.
Yeah, Odegaard,
Saka,
probably Odegaard or someone. Or Saka if you haven't got Saka because you've sold him for Jota or someone, then it's an even easier move. As well. Palmer, what do we do with Palmer? I mean, I'm thinking of selling Palmer this week. I haven't got as much value tied up in him as you have and as other people. I think I'm at like 5.3, 5.4, something like that. So I'd lose 0.2. But I mean, going back to the fixtures, it's an almost certain blank in 29. It's a blank this week, and then it's Brentford, Newcastle. Well, Brentford and Newcastle. I mean, it's not awful, is it? Brentford and Newcastle, but is he worth holding?
I think I did the captain matrix, and he actually figured in one of those. Maybe
can't skip ahead to the captain matrix, can we? Yeah, why not? Let's live a little.
So game week 30, he's got Burnley at home, so you want him for that. But I guess you can bring him in. You can bring him in for the wild card there if you. So you'd want him for that game for sure. So either you have to wild card him in or bring him in for that. I don't think you'd want him over the final 7 or 8 game weeks of the season. He's been an absolute elite FPL asset this season, right? So I don't think long term you want to get rid. I understand short term the merits of it. Because you need to build for 29, and you might even get rid for a Tavernier or something like that for 28. But I've got loads tied up in him. I got him in when he was 4.9, so I don't know if I want to lose that money on him to then get him back for 30, which I would want him back. You're going to want him back for Chelsea versus Burnley at Stamford Bridge.
Oh yeah,
where he's potentially a captain. So it's. Yeah, I see the merits short term, but you unquestionably need a way to get him back.
I mean, 4 goals, 3 assists in 6 starts for 5.8 million. I mean, if you are switching him to like a Hwang or a Neto or someone, then you've got those returns. You'd be in absolute dreamland because they're, it's nuts. I mean, you look at his XG on non-penalty per 90, 0.57 over the last 6. Over the season, it's 0.55. So the consistency that he's got, is amazing. He's a very reluctant sale. But I want to kind of try and push a bit and target some of these good fixtures.
He could hurt you, right? Like,
absolutely.
Yeah,
Brentford and Newcastle.
In any game, and he's a pen taker as well. That he can hit a double figure in either or both of those games, right? So you got to be absolutely have that in mind when you get rid.
Well, in fact, Brentford and Newcastle over the last 6 are the 2 worst defences in the league. And that's who he plays immediately following the blank. Oh, I hate doing this podcast. I think I've got a move locked in. And then you read stuff like that. Yeah, maybe it's not the best move. But yeah, I mean, Hwang is the next person we're going to talk about. There's obviously a lot of interest in Hwang, a lot of interest in Neto as well. I mean, how good has Neto been this season?
It's incredible. Yeah, I mean, it's amazing that he hasn't been a mainstay in our
I know, because the returns he's been getting have just been.
He's so consistent, isn't it? And it's only because of injury and perhaps better options like Palmer. If Palmer hadn't came up and existed this season, Neto would be in our teams.
Yeah.
I don't. But that hasn't been the case, and I've got so close to going Neto before. When I moved for Bailey, it perhaps should have been Neto. But then Neto's very similar to Bailey in that he's an injury-prone player, isn't he? That when he's in the side, him and Bailey are both very consistent. Look, Bailey's 8th in this table over the season, so 0.60 XG on penalty per 90. He surpasses Neto, and he's got 14 goal involvements to Neto's 13. So very, very similar players in that respect.
I mean, look at with Neto, with Hwang, with Palmer, with Bailey as well, with Elise, who looks good. I mean, these are all like 6 million-ish players, and they're all really good, decent assets. I can't remember a season where we've had so many assets under 6 million. Delivering.
Gross as well has been excellent.
Yeah, Gross as well. He's a little bit more at 6'4", but I mean, even Adingra for the next part of the season as well.
So you haven't highlighted Sarabia here, but he's also in the pot, isn't he, with Neto Hwang as well? Because the reason why we're looking, I don't know if you can go to the ticker and just show the reason why we're looking at Wolves players so intently, is just because of the next 3, Sheffield United, Newcastle, Fulham. And you've got to consider that Newcastle away fixture as being one that plays into the hands of a Wolves attack, a counter-attack, and defensively they've been awful. And would I be right in saying Neto would be up against Burn? Because Burn has been absolutely destroyed by pace all season.
Neto's on the left, isn't he?
So Sarabia will be out there rather than Wang down the middle, maybe. But I think I'd have a chance against Dan Burn, to be honest.
Unless Hal finally decides to play Livramento.
He's not going to, is he?
Because absolutely
Alanga turns up and Ogbeni turns up and he still plays him. So it couldn't be any clearer. So, so maybe Neto won't be up against Burn, but you still back him even against Trippier, wouldn't you, to cause them a lot of problems. Just on the counter, Newcastle's lack of pace is awful. That's why their defence is so bad, because they don't defend deep, particularly at home, of course, and they're just exposed to pace, and they've got no pace across that back line at all. And so Wolves, who have got pace up front, will probably look to exploit that. So I think the next 3 Wolves fixtures are very strong. And that is why we're in conversation about Wang and Neto and Sarabia as well. The penalties are key here. We think they're with Wang, but Sarabia's record is also very strong, and they could remain with Sarabia, who wasn't on the pitch when Wang took one. Don't know. I'm favouring Wang though.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's. I mean, look at the goals and assists. Like they're almost like completely turned around. Hwang's got 10 goals this season, which is amazing, and 3 assists, and Neto with 2 goals and 11 assists. Neto is like the better player, isn't he? Like,
oh yeah,
he's just the jewel in the crown of the whole team. But it's not always about who is the best player. It's about who's the most effective player at getting us points. And you've got a player playing out of position in Hwang with a team kind of geared up, like, and with an assist or a creator like Neto in the side, feeding him balls, and the fact he's got penalties as well.
Yeah, I mean, Tarek points out getting Wang dense, avoiding a free hit. Exactly that. We've said all show. But how many times have we made a transfer with a double game week or a blank in mind later and then gone, why did I make that transfer when there was a better option in staring me in the face that had better fixtures, but I didn't go to them because they weren't effective for the double or the blank? I mean,
also, if you need to take a
-4,
like if you need to take a -4 in this case, like say you've made you make one calculated gamble, like you know, we're not saying, you know, if you're against free hitting in 29, you haven't got to go mad with the players you bring in, but you could treat yourself, couldn't you, to a little Hwang, little Hwang or a little or a little Neto or someone, because if you I mean, Neto or Hwang against Sheffield United and Fulham at home. Like
Newcastle away.
And Newcastle. Yeah. I mean, there could be 2 sets of double digits in those. And then if you're taking a -4 to bring them out for someone with a game.
What's the Wolves attacking data last 6? We didn't really pick that out. But I think
they're in the top 10. I think they were. I'd say
11th.
11th. Okay. Yeah.
Okay. But you know, they're up against the defences we listed there that are Fulham, Sheffield United, and Newcastle.
Yeah.
So if we go to defensive data, last 6. Yeah, Newcastle and Sheffield United are down there. Fulham are 50. Yeah, so it's basically 3 of the bottom 6 defences over the last 6 they're playing.
Yeah,
yeah.
And also the attack. I mean, to be fair, the fixtures they've had have been quite good from an attacking perspective, because they've had Spurs, Brentford, Brighton, Everton all over the last 6. So you would maybe want to see that a bit higher, but then they've had, you know, Hwang off.
Well, they've had Kuna's injury.
Hwang's been off.
And Wang's right,
Neto's coming back from an injury as well. So I don't know. It's whether how much impact you think having Kuna out is gonna have. But I think with Hwang there, with the form he's shown this season, I can just see them getting goals.
See Tarek's going full on with Bowen. I mean, yeah, I maybe going the route to bank that player for 29 will work out. I mean, it's pure luck and variance. All I can say is, looking at the evidence, both data and eye test, Bowen versus Hwang, there's no contest at the moment, I would have said. I mean, we're going on Wang's form before the Asia Cup, and we're going on Wolves' attacking form and the defensive data and form of the team they play. That's what we're going on there. Bowen could, just like that, rekindle the form from earlier in the season and stick chances away, and maybe Paqueta will be back to aid that. So it could work out. It is kind of a sliding doors moment with a transfer away from likely Jota to either a Bowen or a Wang or a Neto. It obviously could go either way, but if I was using my logic in terms of what I've seen and what I see in the data, it would be a Wolves player I bring in.
If you told me at the start of the season I could get a midfield of Palmer, Hwang, Diaby, Anthony Gordon and Garnacho, I would have thought you were an absolute maniac. But that 5 isn't that bad. No. You could have those 5. I mean, who you miss? I mean, you're obviously missing Saka there and maybe Foden, but there's not really anyone else. There's not really been any major standouts in midfield.
Yeah, I mean, we've missed the kind of the value from our defenders this season, and there's been huge value in midfield. But obviously, that's tempered by the fact that we need to have some heavy hitters there. You know, we wanted to have Saka for most of the season. We obviously want to have Salah in there as well. So you're limited in the places you've got to rotate with those cheap midfielders. I've had a couple most of the time, but there's been more than 5 or 6. And yeah, Anthony Gordon, you just mentioned, has been outstanding this season. And you know, you look at this here, and we haven't mentioned, like, if you are going to look at Forest, how outstanding Alanga has been over the season. I think it's like 12 goal involvements for him now at 5.1. So he's another one in the same bracket as Bailey and Neto, same price, who's returned double-figure goal involvements. And that's, I don't see why he's not going to end the season with 10 goals, 10 assists. Because he's going to play every game under Nuno, and Nuno is getting, he's got 6 goal involvements since Nuno arrived. He's getting magic from him. He's
such a good player. He's such a good player.
Yeah, he's very effective.
I think Ten Hag's, maybe not got lucky, maybe a bit harsh, but with the issues they've had on the right with Anthony, with Sancho as well, getting rid of Elanga was a massive gamble given how effective he is. But they've obviously got Garnacho, who's been playing well. But
yeah, that was the reason, I think.
It must be a little look at Elanga and be thinking, if he gets 20 goal involvements this season for Forest, he could have been a real asset for us.
Yeah. But you've got to play him every game and accept he'll have poor games, and that's what we've been willing to do. Whereas for United, that's more difficult, isn't it? So I totally get it.
I mean, they are doing that with Garnacho, to be fair, and he's a good player. I just wanted to
touch on the Arsenal mids here as well. I don't know whether you want to touch on them.
just really quick. I just wanted to mention Gordon because we just mentioned him a second ago, but I was surprised that Gordon, when I looked at him over the last 6 games, was right down in 57th for midfielders, 0.35. He has had 2 goals, 2 assists over the last 6. He is confirmed on penalties as well. But I just think that shows the bit of a drop-off that he has when he moves into that kind of central striker area. It's what we've always kind of thought, haven't we, all season when he's kind of played there. Yeah,
he's been in and out of that position. He played wide against Forest, but he just wasn't that effective. So, I don't know, he is in that same bracket, isn't he, as Bailey and Neto, in that, when starting week in, week out, you're getting good value from him. The penalties at the moment are a factor, but Isak's due back, isn't he? So that will shift back to Isak, and Gordon will be moved out wide again. So that's been the thing that's been hanging over him all season. Is he going to lose his place to Barnes? If he plays up front, how long for? Because Isak and Wilson will be fit. And it's been very unsettled, that front three for Newcastle, hasn't it, all season. He's someone, I think, who's going to be keenly priced next year, probably around the 7.5 mark, who, if we're sure the threat from Barnes isn't going to be realised, then I think he's going to be popular, I think.
Yep, absolutely. Arsenal mids then?
Yeah, just interesting that Odegaard, Martinelli, Trossard, these are all factors now. Trossard's 4th, Martinelli 14th, Odegaard 15th. Arsenal's attacking data has leapt up, hasn't it, recently? And I was reading an article today about how Odegaard has moved back to move Arsenal forward. They're second in the attacking data here, 2.32 behind Liverpool over the last 6. And Odegaard has actually taken up a deeper role, which is right, but he's had more impact on their attack by doing that. And obviously Trossard's come into the team to feed that as well. And there's no shame, I don't think, in moving towards a second Arsenal mid, even if you hold Saka for the next 3, given their fixtures. Again, without even thinking about game week 29, because it's very unlikely they play then. So, yeah, Odegaard is one that's interesting, and it's particularly interesting given that he's actually playing a deeper role, but his output has been okay. 3 assists and 1 goal over the last 6. Chances created per 90 is right up there. He is creating for others, and it is mainly his assists that you'd be getting him for, because his shots in the box are down to 0.83. So he's very much not that in the box midfielder that he was last season, when I think he got like 14, 15 goals. You're not going to get that, but you will get a big creative force in a side scoring a lot of goals all of a sudden.
But Mark, you haven't mentioned the prodigal son.
Not Havertz.
Could it be Kai Havertz this time?
No.
Come on.
I'm not throwing him in there as well.
It's interesting that he has played the last 3 games. Like from the start, he's played 90 twice in 83 minutes. 2 assists and a goal in that time. That was coming at a time as well when he was like much maligned as well. It was like, why are we carrying on with this Havertz experiment? It's clearly not working. It now just feels like that three with Odegaard, Rice and Havertz is starting to kind of click a little bit, and we're starting to see a bit more from Havertz. But I spent all pre-season talking him up, so I'm not going to do it again.
No, I think that I'd put my order would be Odegaard, then probably Trossard for short term. If I'm going to wildcard in 30, I think I might well take the risk on Trossard.
Someone out there, can you just, for me, go Havertz? For me. Don't worry about buying Manscaped products or signing up for memberships. I just need to live vicariously through someone with Havertz.
We've got a question there on Bailey from Georgi Ratsov. Your thoughts on Bailey versus Waldmans. Where do you stand on that? Because he's an option, surely. I mean, this data shows how well he's done over the season. Over the last 6, not as strong. In fact, he's not in the top 30 over the last 6, is he here? But
I'm definitely anti-Bailey because you've got him.
Are you? Just because I've got him?
Mostly, yeah. I know he plays, I know he starts the majority of games, but he's that sacrificial lamb, isn't he? When things just aren't going right, you see Diaby warming up and you're like, well, that's him done. I mean, he's played 80 minutes before that, 72, 59, 28, 63. He's played 190 minutes since game week 9. Like he's played a couple of 80 minutes and stuff. I don't know. He's just not really a player that I'm considering. I think he's really talented, and when he's on the pitch, he does really well. I just think with Hwang and Neto's a talisman. He's not going anywhere from that team, and I think he's offering good value for around about the same price as well.
I think I prefer. Pens. Yeah, but Bailey plays 29. That's the appeal. I think if I was moving to a player in that bracket with 29 in mind, then Bailey would have to come into the equation then. Because I guess rather than Bowen, you could move towards Bailey, and I prefer that to Bowen actually, because I do think that Bailey will start all the games up to 29. I think he is the first choice over Diaby, but you're only getting between an hour and 75 out of him. But he's got me assists off the bench, and so I prefer him to Bowen for 29. I guess I don't, based on what I've seen over the season. Like Bowen could, with Paqueta back, just click back into that goal scoring form. But I definitely think Bailey deserves attention for 29. Yeah, I mean, I've got him, so that's the one player I have got for 29 is Bailey.
I think given the potential of the next two, I'd pick Hwang or Neto. I'd pick Bailey over Luiz though. Douglas Luiz is also someone that you could consider, given the fact he's got pens. And things he's down in 27th on the midfielder list over the last 6, which isn't bad for like what we call a pen merchant.
Oh yeah, very strong.
As some people say. I mean, he's ahead of Neto, for example, over the last 6. He's ahead of Diaz as well. Ahead of Gordon. He is a good enabler, but I think you go for Bailey. He's just a bit more exciting for me, but not a bad pick.
But I mean, Villa against Forest, set pieces is our weakness, and Lewis will be on a lot of them, and they've got that set piece coach. So I wouldn't be surprised if Lewis comes out of the game with something. But I wouldn't be surprised if Bailey does either, because he'll be up against Tavares probably, and Tavares can't defend. So it really depends how much we turn Bailey around and we get at cash on that side as to whether Bailey's effective. So,
you do love getting at cash.
I do. I can't wait to get my hands on it, so to speak.
Forwards over the season. I mean, what's your optimal? We love that word. Front three. I said it earlier. I think it's surely Haaland, Watkins, Solanke for me.
Yeah, I think that's what I'm going to come out with. Getting Tony now and then moving Haaland out in 28 to get Solanke in then is a route as well. Yeah, and it's obviously those 4 is what we're looking at. And Højlund comes into the equation though, because he's 26 in this table. He's certainly not 26 in the table.
We wrote him off, didn't we? But I wonder if Delia's still got him. She had him for ages. Yeah, he's up to 6th. Look at that conversion, 60%. Surely that's unsustainable.
Yeah, it is. But United's front three are clicking, aren't they? Rashford looks like he's getting some confidence back. Garnacho's been, a real bright spark over the recent weeks and all season largely. But suddenly Højlund has just found his confidence, and perhaps that was all he needed. He needed to get up to speed with the demands of the Premier League, perhaps, whether that be the pace or the power defenders and the way we defend in the Premier League. But he's definitely got that now, and he's taken his chances really well. 6 goals in the 6 starts, as we see here, or 5 starts. And if Forest do beat United in the Cup in midweek next week, then he's going to be a hugely popular player ahead of game week 29.
I do feel a bit jealous of the people that are going for him. I feel like, because we'll talk about our moves in a bit, but my sensible move probably would be just to do Darwin to Solanke. But then I'm going to be looking at those who go for Hwang and Neto. I'm going to be looking at those who go for Højlund and just thinking, this could be the one that kind of gets away. Because Fulham at home is a great fixture for Højlund, given the form he's got. And I don't know, it almost feels like you've got a player banging form, playing in attack that's starting to click against one of the poorest defences in the league, and it's like this is at a time when we've got forwards to sell because Darwin hasn't even got the game. And it's like we're still looking for reasons not to get him and go for players with doubles or games in 29.
Yeah, but I guess he has got Man City in 27 when Watkins goes to Luton and Solanke goes to Burnley.
But you could move him on, right? You could. I know it's a time when transfers are precious, but you if you're planning for it in 29 anyway, you could use that move to switch around these strikers. I feel like there's a perfect combination of switcheroos for these forwards because there's 4 or 5, isn't there? Get that combination right, Neil.
There is. I think Højlund's unfortunate because of the Solanke double. I think without that, he would be higher on our list, wouldn't he? Because he plays in 29 and he's got okay fixtures up to then. But because we've got to have Solanke for 28, you're not going to burn transfers doing too much of a hokey cokey. I mean, we're even considering, Tony is a similar situation with Tony because of the Solanke double. It makes it more complex, doesn't it? When actually they've got the form and fixtures who should be in our first 3 choices. But we can't get rid of Watkins. He's the mainstay. And like I said, he goes to Luton in 27 as well. So you're going to want him for that. Spurs at home, you'd expect Villa to score definitely in that game. And West Ham away, 29 is a plum fixture, really. As far as when there's only 4 fixtures there, West Ham away is a plum fixture. Yeah. So, yeah, it's just the conditions around Watkins and Solanke makes it unfortunate for Højlund and for Tony in terms of being top of our list now.
Guess who's in the chat, Mark?
Who's there?
My dad.
Oh, Chris is in the
Christopher
house.
Phillips. Dad. Ball shaver.
That's what they are. You missed the demo that Jazz gave earlier.
No. Oh, no. We're not going down that road. My dad says I would put a Dingra in my team. You're a bit late, Dad. It was always last week. 2 goals. Yeah. I was surprised to see him straight back in the team. But I'm happy to see him straight back in the team because I honestly think he's a wonderful, wonderful player. And his stats have been quite poor all season, like purely from a fantasy perspective. And the performances don't match it. I'd like to see him become an option for us towards the end of the season, but I think you probably still would move towards Gross or Matoma if you were picking one. But
yeah, Gross is the one, isn't he?
I don't know.
I think it's a boring pick, isn't it? It's the Lewis over Bailey that is Gross over.
It's just the fact he's sometimes playing. He was playing at right back for a bit in the last game, and then at left back.
Doesn't matter, though, does it?
No, I think Matoma could have a strong end to the season, but
yeah, I don't trust you on Brighton mids. You've been wrong for a lot of the time on that.
I've been right, just not at the right times.
Yeah, as a bit more can would say.
That's it. Anyone else you want to mention from forwards?
Not too much other than, Aaron coming back to fitness and just has a knack of scoring goals and will be a threat against Villa and could end up playing in 29 like Højlund. And so, like Højlund, he'll be someone that will be looked at in a free hit if that is the case.
Yep.
So, yeah, I think he's back on the agenda. Look how he ended last season. I think he scored in 8 consecutive games. And the way that we're attacking... I think that he could have another good run to end the season.
I'd love him to be an option. I love Awani. He's such a... neither of us can pronounce his name.
Awani.
Is Awani? Okay. Awani.
Well, you can say Awani, but I always say Awani. Yeah.
Taiwo, as mate known.
Big T. Yeah.
Webby says to my dad, comments on Trippier, please. No more.
Oh, yes.
No more comments. On Trippier.
Does it wind Chris up that I've still got him in my team?
I've got him as well. I bought him.
Lovely.
Yeah. After Christmas, listening to my dad rant about Trippier.
I still haven't listened to that. I must play that back. We should release it for members only.
You've just given a spoiler away. My dad doesn't know that I recorded some of his Trippier rant.
Yeah, Chris, he's got it on tape. And
I've got the greatest line from my dad, which is, if this was back in my day, I would have rinsed Trippier. I would have loved to have played against Trippier. And I'm like, yes, Dad, perfect. We should release that on Discord.
And then I'll sample it. We'll have it as sound files on here.
If you ever needed a reason to join the BlackBox YouTube tier memberships, to listen to a spied voice note on my dad.
I think we should use Chris for all our bonus members content.
Yeah. Oh God, can you imagine how much we'd make? Okay, we've done the free hit, we've done the chip strategy. We can come on to fixtures then. Oh no, I've given the garden centre game away. already. I think this was a pretty obvious one, though, wasn't it?
Yeah.
I think West Ham v Brentford at 8 p.m. on Monday. Why do they keep putting these Monday night games? There's Palace Everton last week. Well, this week. Next week it's West Ham Brentford. Give us a good one. Give us a...
Well, I guess if you're holding Bowen or Tony, if you've gone that route, then that's a good. Yeah, that's going to be a good game.
I suppose Tony owners won't be complaining. Villa Forest is the first game. You've gone for despite all of Forest's good defensive data, you've gone for a 2-2. I've gone for a Villa win.
I think that the Villa set piece threat and Villa at home are strong. I think we're going to shock people, though. I think we're going to cause them a lot of problems. They've got a lot of injuries defensively, and we're not going to. This is not a Steve Cooper away team. This is a Nuno away team where he'll go and say, right, well, we're going to counter you. It's a high line, we know, right? And we've got players who can cause them a lot of problems against that high line. We beat them at home 2-0 very easily, and we looked after Watkins. He was no trouble at all to us. I think Murillo will look after Watkins. I think Bailey will be the biggest threat to us against Tavares. But our front players at the moment, Gibbs White behind Arani with Alanga and Hudson-Odoi.
And the line Villa play, going to get got at. Yeah.
So, I mean, Hudson-Odoi we haven't spoke about. He's been outstanding, 3-3, and he's looking really, really up it now. So I think that we're going to score a couple of goals. We're averaging 2 goals a game under Nuno as well. So... we either get a point or we lose 3-2. You know, we've lost 3-2 about 8 times this year, I think.
You did a number on Villa earlier, right? Didn't you, at the Forest ground? Or was it 1-0?
Yeah, beat them 2-0.
2-0, yeah I remember, because that was when Villa were flying and then you put them back in their place. Yeah, should be a good game. Brighton-Everton. Now, my dad is in the chat. I mean, my dad's watched more Brighton games than I have over his long life. I don't think there's been too many worse games than Brighton v Everton last season. Remember that match?
Was it poor?
5-2 Everton. Remember that game?
Oh, yeah, they thrashed you, didn't they? Yes, I know, yeah.
It's the only Brighton game I've ever turned off before the end and I just went for a bath.
How did they do that? What did they do? I mean, because they did similar to West Ham this year, did they? Did they just...
I'm not joking. Calvert-Lewin was unplayable.
Right.
He was absolutely unplayable. They were just getting the ball to him. He was holding off the defenders, playing in their things, and they were just finishing and converting everything. It was unbelievable. It was the same method every time. We couldn't get the ball off him. He was so strong. He was turning. He was quick. It was just horrible.
I haven't seen much of that from him this year, I've got to say, but yeah, fair enough.
I haven't seen any of it from this year. It's been really poor, isn't it? He's on a goal. How many games has it been since he scored now?
I wouldn't want to say.
I'm just looking at the stats, right? We lost 5-1. We had 23 shots to 10. We had 5 shots on target each. We had 78% possession compared to 22%. We had an 88% pass accuracy compared to 65% as well. And they just absolutely turned us over.
They Dyche-balled you. I mean, I don't see it going that way this time. I think Everton look in trouble. I mean, they got the draw against Palace, but they didn't look like they had many routes to goal other than throwing the ball in the box and hoping Calvert-Lewin either gets a header on goal or gets a knockdown for someone. It did work. I mean, and then set pieces. They'll cause you problems from set pieces, of course, but I think you'll beat them.
Yeah. I think we will. I've gone for a 3-2. You've gone for a 2-1. Palace Burnley. I mean, this would be the Garden Centre game if it was on any kind of TV channel. I've gone for a 0-0. First game in charge, scoping it out. Not had a chance to put his tactics in. Burnley, just awful, aren't they? Relegated, unfortunately. You've gone for a Palace win.
Yeah, I think that, for Glasner's first game in charge, I think Palace will just about have enough. I just don't see Burnley scoring. A very dull game, though. I mean, Palace are in trouble as well. I mean, whether he can turn it round and get them out of this, I don't know. But
what's his name?
Glasner. I don't know what his Christian name is. Glasner is his surname.
Olivier.
Yeah, Olivier. Yeah, that's right. Because he was linked to the Forest job, so I had a look at him then. He's got a good record. He's a very credible manager, but he hasn't got much to work with at the moment with Eze and Elise unfit. So he's got to, I guess, stop them conceding goals, which they have been doing.
European winning manager, isn't he? Didn't he win the Europa League?
Yeah,
years ago.
He's got good record.
Good pedigree. Yep. See how he does. I mean, he's got a hard job, I think, because they are struggling. In the summer, they're going to probably lose Gueye, Elise, and Eze.
At least 2 of that. 3,
yeah. So he's going to have a bit of a rebuild or job on his hands, but probably time for Roy to step down. But what a man he's been.
I think it was a mistake for him to go back in the first place.
Yeah.
For his health and so on. I mean, the demands on a Premier League manager is just crazy now. Without the media, but the pressure as well, and some of the. I guess I understand the frustration of the Palace fans, but I think you've got to look at the fact that Hodgson came back and saved them when he did. It's a very difficult situation, and sometimes sentimentality goes out the window. But Hodgson's been such an incredible servant to the game, right? And certainly to Palace. But yeah, I think they win this 1-0. But I think Palace not out of it yet. Forest looking above them at Everton, and Palace thinking we could probably pull them back in. To be honest,
yeah.
Well, Everton are below us, but yeah. Might not be if they get their points back. But we'll see.
Do you think they will?
I think they will get some, yeah.
Oh, God. I'll mix it up a bit. Man United Fulham, I've gone for a 2-1. You've gone for a 3-1. Things starting to click a bit for Man U. Although, another game where Man U rode their bloody luck, didn't they? Luton were awesome in that match.
Don't know what happened because United looked like they're going to steam all over them first 20 minutes, and then it just switched completely, didn't it?
It's like as soon as Luton got one back, they were like United just fell apart. So and we've seen that happen time and time again, kind of this season. So, but then in the end they had enough to hold out. I mean, some of the changes I saw being made, like Evans coming on and like such defensive moves, but. Yeah, I don't know. It was, in the end, a resolute performance from them, as they've had a couple of over the last... Is that 4 wins in a row now for Man U?
Yeah, going strong. Yeah. It's I mean, it just all clicks when you got a goal scorer, doesn't it? That's been the difference.
Yeah. But surely too much for Fulham. Bournemouth City, interesting one, given that we're all massively loaded up on City. I've gone for a 2-0, you've gone for a 2-1 as well. I mean, this is the decision to make. I mean... I guess we're all going to be keeping them because we're going to be selling other players, haven't got a fixture. But De Bruyne's on his last legs. If you've got Ake, you've got a problem because is he going to start or not? I don't know. They're a team where I want to be getting rid rather than investing in Man City. But this fixture looks decent for them. Haaland captain this week, locked in.
Not locked in. I don't think it's an easy game for City, and I don't think Bournemouth are going to ship 3 or 4 goals as we've seen here. We're both going 2, so I don't think it's totally locked in. It depends what you've gone Wolves 4-0 against Sheffield United. Yeah. If you really think that, then you've got to look at if you're bringing a Wolves midfielder in, backing them certainly.
Well, you've gone Arsenal 4-2 against Newcastle, so you've got to be looking at Saka.
Yeah, no, yeah. I am. Yeah, and I think that's valid as well. Saka's run of form has been strong. His data's been strong all season. It's just clicked for him now. So if confidence is a thing or form is a thing, then you've got to consider Saka. Newcastle will concede in that game, and I do think, I think Arsenal will get 3-4 goals. I do. So I've got to look at that as well. I don't think it's a foregone conclusion at all. I think it's a very safe option to go Haaland because he probably gets something in the game.
Do you think, given that it's a week in which a lot of people are going to maybe be struggling to put out a team, there's going to be hits flying around as well, does that give you a bit of a buffer to take a bit of a risk with the captaincy? Because, say Haaland possibly does get 2 goals in that and you've gone for Saka who gets nothing, but you haven't taken any hits, for example, does that kind of counterbalance it?
Yeah, I think it does.
Is that a good way to look at it? I'm not really sure.
I mean, it's not, because you should just go with the player you think scores the most points. It shouldn't come into it. But I think the fact that, if I take a hit, which I need to get 11 out, does that make it less likely I'm going to take a risk with my captaincy? It shouldn't do.
Yeah, but it probably will.
It shouldn't do, but it probably will. Yeah. Because subliminally you're going, I've taken a hit, I'm 4 points down, just play safe for the captaincy. Maybe I won't do that, though. Maybe I will look to Saka, because I am very, very tempted on Saka. Particularly, it's the game on TV. I don't doubt Arsenal score. They are probably, at the moment, the best attacking side, them and Liverpool. There's not a lot in it between Liverpool, City and Arsenal in terms of attack. They are the most improved attacking side, Arsenal. And it's Saka up against Burn, possibly, right? Probably is Saka up against Burn, right? And Burn's defended him okay in the past, but... It's very interesting.
I've got 2 concerns with going against Haaland this week with Bournemouth. So Bournemouth's best run of this season, arguably probably any Premier League season, was between game week 10 and game week 19, when they lost 1 game out of that.
And they were the best attacking side in the
whole spell. They
beat,
they beat Man United 3-0. They beat Forest away 3-0, 3 at home to Fulham. They beat Newcastle 2-0, who were doing really well at the time. Who was the team that battered them during that run? Man City 6-1, in game week 11. Now they're off the back of a really poor run. Loss against Spurs, loss against Liverpool, draw with West Ham, draw with Forest, losing 3-1 to Fulham as well, and then drawing with Newcastle. They have conceded like 2 to 3 goals a game.
So, yeah, but perhaps the reverse is true. Just as they got thrashed by City in a good run, maybe in a bad run, they're going to get a 1-all draw.
3-0. Yeah. It would be much easier to back against Haaland if they were on the run that they were on.
Van
before.
Dijk scored for Liverpool.
Oh, not him.
Yeah, well done for those who went Van Dijk. I did look at him as well.
So did I.
But I looked at him for the Burnley game in mind. And he's gone and done it against Luton.
I looked at Trippier to Van Dijk. The thing that put me off was it would have meant a hit this week. So again, looking too far ahead, maybe. That's how it is.
Well, I'm glad the equaliser's gone in from a Forest perspective anyway. So,
yeah. Arsenal Newcastle gone for a 2-1. You've gone for a 4-2. We mentioned Saka. We mentioned bringing in some Arsenal mids as well. We're backing Newcastle though. So if you have got Gordon, then you probably. Well, you'd be happy to play him, wouldn't you?
Yeah, you play him in every game, don't you? I think because they've got that threat, and I think because defensively they're letting in goals, they've got to be on the front. They've got to chase games, haven't they? So, yeah.
Oh, why Van Dijk? The only player that could really have hurt, Bradley would be an annoying one, wouldn't it? But yeah, well done any Van Dijk owners. Wolves Sheffield United. I think this is the interesting one. I am very tempted by Juan Captain this week. I just Sheffield United are awful, and that challenge from Holgate. Like, what is he doing? Like, you're in a game. It's important. You're doing all right up until that stage, and then you just give your team the worst thing. I don't know. I just thought it was absolutely crazy tackle. And now he's not going to play, and they're just done. Like, any team could go to. I mean, 5 goals in a row at home, over 5 goals.
Then they got the result at Luton, though, didn't they? So I thought, when they had that Villa debacle. That it would be that they would just drift away, and then they went to Luton, got the result, and I thought, the fight's back in them, and then they've just lost again 5-0 to Brighton. So I think that it would be against the form book if they went to Wolves and got something, or even put up a fight. I've gone for a 2-0 in the end, but it's 2-1 Liverpool. This is good. This is good for Forest. Much better.
Oh, they've scored again. Who scores this one?
Gakpo this time. So
Gakpo. Okay. Oh, poor Doty. He's getting.
That's all right. This is where Forest is more important to me than my FPL players. Yeah.
Doty with a 0 in the double game week.
I don't mind.
Beautiful. And then the final game is West Ham Brentford. I've gone for a 2-1 Brentford. You've gone for a 1-1. I just think Tony will get at least one in this game. And West Ham are rubbish. That's
I think Brentford are the more likely winner here. I think you're right. So in hindsight, maybe I should have gone 1-0 Brentford or 2-0 Brentford, because I don't necessarily see West Ham scoring, but Brentford's defence no great shakes, as we saw earlier, so I think maybe they'll get one. But again, like, you're looking at this, you predicted 4-0 Wolves and West Ham to score once. If you're looking at Bowen or Wang, this is the first game of a good run for Wolves, and you think they're going to get 4 goals. I don't think it'll go that bad, but I still.
It wouldn't surprise you, though, would it?
It
wouldn't. It did. Yeah.
Yeah.
If you are interested in joining the Godfather tier, you get access to the Prediction League, which is run by Lee, absolute legend. I'm 13th in this out of our members. Slip down a little bit. Mark, you're in. Assuming that is you, I think it probably is. You're in 17th as well. Angus is currently leading the way with a what's he got? 52%.
See, the percentages have settled, haven't they? Around 50 to 52. I mean, our percentages, I'm on 49, you're on 52. You're doing particularly well.
Yeah. I mean, it just shows, though, it's not like everyone, like you say, everyone is consistently around the kind of 50% mark. Angus is winning on points because he's obviously got more correct scores, which are obviously really hard to predict. You look at Pratik in second, the results is lower, but he's had more correct scores. So it all kind of balances. But it is interesting because, it just shows that the not even an average person, but like a person who's really into football and clearly is like taking a lot of interest in results and stuff, only gets it right around 50%.
Yeah, and this is why when people say, is FPL a game of skill or luck, you've got to think 50%. It's a prediction game, isn't it? FPL in a way, right? So if you're only getting a 50% success rate on predicting results, and you're someone who studies football quite closely, which all these people do, then it just shows you the amount of variance involved in FPL. Of course, it's there. Yeah, no question.
Let's go 50-50 then. There you go. We've solved the dilemma that people have had all these years. Captain's data. I think this is an interesting week. I think we are going to see some variation. Obviously, Haaland's at the kind of top of this when we look at XG on penalty per 90, shots in the box, all those kind of metrics. But you've also got Saka, you've got Watkins at home to Forest, you've got Pedro Neto or Hwang, even Højlund if you bought him in this week at home to Fulham. If you're going to go by form, you can really kind of go for him. Lots of good picks this week. I don't think for me, it's definitely not a certainty that I'm going to go for Haaland this week.
No, I think I might go against him. I mean, De Bruyne's probably going to start at Bournemouth. That'd be the one thing. I'd wait on the team news on De Bruyne to see whether the injury will keep him out, because De Bruyne are in the team.
They're the early game, aren't they?
Are they? Right. That shouldn't affect things, but it kind of does as well. Do you want your captain in the early game? I don't mind.
No, they're not the early game. Okay. Sorry, they're at 5:30. But it's
I don't mind it.
It's a later deadline. Right. It doesn't. So the first game's not until 3.
Yeah, we don't want the leaks being a factor. I don't mind going against Haaland this week, even though I'm taking a hit. I think Saka is someone I'm really considering, and would I go Wang as well if I bring him in? Maybe. I mean, if I'm bringing him in, I'm presuming he's going to score well. So why not put the captaincy on him as well? Right? So, yeah.
Hwang's just the one where, like, if he did get 2 points, you'd be like, yeah, I could have probably foreseen that. Whereas Saka, surely Saka isn't blanking at home to Newcastle.
Yeah, I expect Arsenal to get multiple goals against Newcastle from what I've seen. All the data points do it. They're in terms of granting XG, they're the worst defence around and have been for a while. And like I say, if they do keep Burn at left back, is he going to be overrun on that side by White and Saka? So even if he does stay wide, you'd think he'd get something out of the game. Plus the penalties are in there too. Because
that's the thing. If you're going for Hwang, you're not just backing on him doing well. You're backing him out scoring both Haaland and Saka with good home games.
Yeah.
Sorry, I know City's got Bournemouth away, but good games then. Yeah, I don't know. My dad's kicking off about Trippier again. I don't know why. No one's even mentioned Trippier, but there he is. Trippier was good at set piece.
I agree. He is good at set piece.
He is that.
Yeah. Is he saying that's all he's good at?
I think that's his. Yeah, that's his. Right, that's his point. Yeah. He doesn't think he's a very good open play crosser, which I dispute.
Oh no,
heavily.
He is.
I dispute
amazing.
Heavily.
It's fantastic.
That.
Yeah.
But yeah. Anyway, let's not go back to Christmas again. Yeah. The Matrix.
We've looked at this, haven't we?
Yeah, we've looked at this already. I mean, Haaland's the obvious one, apart from 28.
The 29 captaincy, that's worth looking at, because you've got to get yourself Tony and Watkins and probably at least one of Richarlison or Son, haven't you? Because you want to be able to cover the popular captains.
Yep.
Where are you going with that captaincy? Would you go Tony at Burnley away, or would you get one of the Spurs? If you had one of the Spurs boys, would you favour the Spurs boy over Tony or Watkins?
Tony or Son. I think I'd lean towards Tony. Just given the fact it's Burnley. I think Fulham at home can put up a bit of a fight, whereas I just don't see Burnley putting up a fight anywhere. But then Spurs are the better attacking team. I don't know, there's not much in it. I think
the thing is with Spurs, the thing is with Spurs, the attack returns could come from any one of 4 or 5 players, whereas Tony's the one.
Exactly. Yeah. And every free kicks, like the whole team is geared to him. Whereas if Son's out on the left as well, and Richarlison playing through the middle again, does that kind of dent it a little bit?
You've got Maddison, you've got Kulusevski, you've got Johnson. Any one of them could get the goals, really.
Tough one. Both good options.
Yeah, I think I'm with you. I think even though I've said Son is the primary candidate, I think maybe Tony is, to be honest.
Yeah, we're all going to win over 29. My team then, my team's looking all right-ish, I think, going into 26. Martinez in goal, Trippier, Gabriel. It's stupid, and I've seen a few people asking about him. I don't think he starts this game, but if he gets 1 point, he gets 1 point, and he might start. So I'm not going to take a hit to deal with it. Just hope that he does. I think he's used in the cup against Wolves in the week, and he misses this one because I think we've got a Premier League sort of side that's quite settled in that way and is kind of working. I still don't get it. I still think, I know he's made mistakes and he gives the ball away and things like that, but the only way you can recover from that really is by getting him back in the team. I feel like he's had his break. He's learnt his lesson. getting back inside. I just wonder if there's off-field stuff going on.
I think he prefers Lamptey. I think he sees Lamptey as more disciplined.
Yeah, but then you're taking him away from the right back spot.
Yeah.
Why not just play him on the right? Like Lamptey can still play. Lamptey and Estupiñán should be arguably one of the two best fullback pairings in the league, given the pace they've got. But I don't know. I just think there's a fallout. I think there's a fallout with De Zerbi, because De Zerbi is all about, you can make mistakes. It's how you react to them afterwards.
Yeah, so you don't think it's just the mistakes alone. You think there's something there as well.
No, I think he knows how important he is to the role, and I think I don't know. It's all just like guesswork, but I think I wouldn't be surprised if he got sold in the summer. And maybe this new Argentinian kid that we've got in comes in. Yeah. Pilates, is that his name? Something like that. See what I did there? Thank you.
You only get that if you've listened to the podcast enough to have the advert for AG1.
AG1,
So that'll be lost on so many people.
I'm glad you got it though. That's the main thing. My midfield is De Bruyne, Saka, Foden, Garnacho, Palmer, Haaland and Watkins, and then obviously no bench with Kelleher, Doty, Darwin and Kabore. So my two options really, I think it just comes down to Darwin to Solanke, get him in ahead of 28 and a decent run, or Palmer to Hwang. And I think I'm going to do Palmer to Hwang, because I think Wolves go. I think they just beat Sheffield United. I think they're a much better side. Hwang's out of position on pens. I think he could get a big haul in that game, and if I have to reverse it in a few weeks, so be it.
So you wouldn't get Kabore out for another defender, and therefore you're getting.
I've got no money.
An active player.
I've got no money. I've got no money at all. So that, I could have done that. I mean, I could do Kabore to Van Heck, for example, but it just feels a bit like I kind of want to attack a little bit more. Like this week, I just think there's potential. I could even do Darwin to Højlund. I'm not completely against doing that either, but I've already got Garnacho, so it's a double up on the attack.
That's not a healthy position to be in. Probably.
No,
there's a bit too much in the United basket. But no, fair enough. I think. I mean, it's just selling Palmer. I think as long as you haven't got money tied up in him, so I guess it makes sense.
I've got a bit. I've got a bit of money tied up in him, but I can get him back on the wild card in a few weeks. But they are good fixtures. I don't really know. I want Hwang, but I don't want to lose Palmer. So it's kind of, I don't know. Maybe it is better just to get rid of Darwin, who I'm probably not going to want in the mid to longer term.
It's a shame that Kuna's not fit, because that's what you would probably do.
Absolutely, 100%. I love Kuna. I think he's an amazing player. But yeah, anyway, we only do what we can do. Your team, you've got a few more issues than I have, given that you've only got 9 players at the moment.
Yeah, not expecting too much from this week as well, because Trippier's at Arsenal and so Dubravka as well, and I haven't got any options there, so I've got to play them. So it's Dubravka, Trippier, Gabriel, Walker, Saka, Foden, Bailey, Jota will have to go, Watkins, Darwin will have to go, and Haaland. At least it's easy for me, because both Jota and Darwin are injured, so there's no remorse in terms of getting rid of them. So it'll be Jota to Hwang probably, and then Darwin to Solanke. Solanke not ideal, but getting him in now gets him in for the fixture run up to 28 as well.
Annoyingly obvious for you, isn't it?
Yeah, and this is what I mean. I said last week that I've been very zen-like with FPL, and I don't know why, but just pieces have just become obvious, and what to do has been quite obvious. That will change when the FA Cup results come in, and I have to decide whether to free hit in 29 or whether I'm going to wild card into it. So that will change then, because there'll be options. But in recent weeks, I haven't really had dilemmas. I think it's been pretty clear what I should do, and I think I'm going to stick with that. And keep my transfers simple. Take the hit -4, but get Solanke in early for 28, so it feels okay taking the hit, if you know what I mean. Because you always feel like, well, I'm going to get 2 of those points back in the double anyway. It's a player I definitely want for that. And Bournemouth could score against City. I don't think it's going to be a big week for me at all.
I'll be on a nice green arrow when I don't take a hit. Might get like a little 20k rank rise or something.
You should do, yeah.
Nils is a fan. He just says, great team. Goodbye. He's seen enough.
Right. Thanks, Nils.
Love that. So that's pretty much it from us. Just to run up the Black Box leagues, Henry Thornycraft is top of the pile. Is that a name we've seen? I don't remember.
Thornycroft. No, I don't think so.
You say horny Thornycroft?
Henry Thornycroft. we definitely haven't seen him because he must be new because we would have tripped over his name before.
Yeah,
Definitely.
I think Henry's new and just joined and is in. So congratulations, you're top of the pile, 113. Richard Smith in second, John O'Shea in third. Another goal for Liverpool, Diaz, if anyone cares.
Right.
John O'Shea, Chris McKellarman, Christian Larsich, Keith Conn, Andrew Fakeney, Mike Dobson, Jeremy Khalud and Joe Cassidy, all with scores above 90 this week. Absolutely banging Gameweek 25 for you. In the Apprentice League, you are top still with 159. That's just another good week for you.
Lizzle's taken Ryan.
Getting annoying.
Look.
Yeah, Liesl on with 93, 1500. I think she might have had Van Dijk as well. So she'll be loving it. Ryan in third, and then I'm just behind, only 13 points in it now. And Natalie, unfortunately, still struggling. And
there's Richard Smith again. Look, top of that.
Here he is. Hang on. Mahomie says, bring back as his team video. Now you're close to the top 500,000. I said once I got back into the top million, I would be doing them again. I'll be back tomorrow doing the team selection. So there you go. Little spoiler for you.
So Richard Smith joined the Black Box League, having been top of the Godfather League. You see?
Yeah. Smart. He's top of the Godfather League with 103. Pratik with 90. Pratik, predictions and FPL. There you go. Doing well. Avi Fruchter in third. Conor Gray in fourth. Nick Baker in fifth. Tom Gould. Mr. Mark Sutherland in seventh. Chris Tanya in eighth. Nathan Jobling in ninth. And Crust in 10th. This set list is... This top 10 has been like this for a while.
Very similar, hasn't it?
It has. Yeah, needs some more people to join in and mix it up a little bit. And what was this one? Oh, Fest. I wasn't going to show this graphic, but I'll give another plug to Fest as well.
Yeah, we'll be there.
We'll be there. If you haven't already, get your ticket. It will be in, I always forget, Vauxhall this year. 3 p.m. kickoff on the 16th of August. Go to ff-fest.com to get your ticket now.
It says meet, watch, learn FBR. I don't know about learn. What do you learn at Fest? Well, I think you learn
learn that Gabrielle's
don't
not
buy
playing.
us any more drinks, basically.
Learn that Stones and Gabrielle both missing.
God, yes. Yeah. No, I think the biggest takeaway from Fest is always the people you meet, right? So
yeah,
it's always great for that.
Very nice. Yeah. And that's it from us. If you haven't already, make sure you like this video. We really appreciate it. Thanks for all joining us when there's been football on in the background. Hopefully everyone got what they wanted, although I doubt they did unless you're a Van Dijk or a Diaz owner. I said going into this week, I did a Q&A with Sam, and someone said, should I get Diaz? And I said, I don't hate Diaz as a pick, but really you're only getting Diaz because you can't afford Jota. And look at that.
We would have said the same for Gakpo as well.
I know. And
they're the two to come out of the game week with the points, really.
Typical. But there it is. If you've enjoyed this, do give us a comment as well on the YouTube video. Do comment on the pod too. And do check Manscaped out because they are a good partner of ours. And we enjoy having them sponsor the show.
They are indeed.
That's it from us then, Mark.
Yeah, thanks, Az. Good show. It's going to be a mad one next week as well with the cup results to consider. And that's going to give us a lot more chip strategy talk, I imagine.
Absolutely.
When we get that. So we'll see if I don't know when we'd have to do that to make sure all the cup results are in. I imagine we'd have to do it Thursday or Friday. We'll have to have a look how that falls. But we want to make sure we've got all the FA Cup results in before we do that show because they have such an impact on what we're talking about. So we'll probably do it Friday night, I think. That would be
we could do a trio with Andy as well. Get a late tackling.
Be good to get a view what Andy's up to with his chips
as
well. So probably Friday night we'll join you next week to discuss
Sounds
that.
good to me. Nice one.
Magic.
Cool. We'll see you all next week. Thanks for watching.
Bye-bye.